So, yeah, but Arsenal has just low standards. It doesn't really count. I'm talking about a big club, isn't it? Like,
Phase of the problem. Ollie's fine. It's just no, stop it, guys.
What's going on, people? Here we go. Sancho is coming to Manchester United. He has more or less been confirmed. Welcome to Grounded Football. And joining me today, I've got a very, very full and very, very, very good panel. We've got Brian, we've got Steve, we've got Hassam, and we've got Mr. Structure himself as well. And hopefully, Devil in the Details will be joining us soon as well. But guys, we're going to start off with Jadon Sancho. Going to go to the rivals first because we've got two Liverpool fans here in Steve and Hassam. Start off with Steve because I know Hassam's going to have a meltdown. We'll start off with Steve, the sensible one. What are you thinking of this Sancho deal?
Excuse me, the sensible one.
Yeah, he's the sensible one.
I know what Hassam's going to say because it's been said before, and I kind of agree. But I've been thinking about this, and my take on it is, first of all, to Manchester United. We spoke about this last week. He plays better on the left than he does on the right, but there's plenty of flexibility with your front men because you don't really know where to play Rashford. You don't really know where to play Martial. So you've got the option of playing him left or right with either of those, or Greenwood. Your number 9, your traditional number 9, your good number 9 is the evergreen Cavani. Will benefit from having Sancho in the team for sure. So it's a good signing for United. £73 million with add-ons. I assume that £73 million would have been better spent on a number 6 because your number 6 gives you greater protection in front of your back four. And you have a better opportunity to get a little bit more out of the guys you've got question marks over out wide, and your Rashfords and your Martials and players like that, because you'll control the game better with a decent number 6 that can protect your back four. So from United's point of view, it is a good signing. He will improve you. But I think you should have spent the money elsewhere first and foremost. So if that proves to be your only signing in the summer, which I don't think it will be, but if it proves to be your marquee signing, I think you're going to have a season next season very similar to this one, where you're very frustrated with McFred, because clearly the club sees something in those two guys that the fans don't. So in terms of Sancho going to United, 300 grand a week, he's probably made up. You know, that's insane. A guy of that inexperience in the Premier League can warrant £300,000 a week. It's mad. It's absolute madness, but it's what clubs do. It's what Manchester United do. You know, I know there's debt, but they're happy to, have these players on these wages. So head off what Hassam's going to say in a second now. He wanted to see Sancho at Liverpool. And there's an argument to say he'd be very good at Liverpool. But if you bring Sancho into Liverpool, you've got to switch Sadio Mane into Mo Salah into a central role. I don't think Mo Salah is good enough to play in a central role, and here's why. When you're playing on the right side as an inverted forward, and you come inside and use your left foot, you very often don't have anybody behind you because you're coming off the touchline, and your touchline's your friend. Play in the middle in the central line, you've got to be aware of everybody that's around you all of the time. I just think that's too much to ask Mo Salah to do that for a season. Yes, he'd have great games, no, undoubtedly, and he'd score goals. He's not a line leader. He's not the guy who runs in, it works in between the lines of the box like a Cavani does, or even Calvert-Lewin's been doing it for Everton and been doing it well. So in terms of Salah, he's better out wide, and he would tell you he's better out wide. So if you brought Sancho into Liverpool, then you've then got to switch Sancho to the left side because he's better there, and he would tell you he's better there. Again, because he wants to work inside onto his right foot, where he's got opportunities to play the ball infield to someone for a give and go. And if he wants to get a shot off, he's more central. You then have to move Sadio out to the right, which he's great at. He scored his first goal away at Arsenal, which was an absolute failure from there. And then you play Mo Salah through the centre. That, for me, is not really a front three that's going to bring you points against sides that put up the low block. That problem still remains, and Salah's not clever enough to deal with that. So in terms of Sancho going to United, I'm okay with that. And I'm only okay with that because we've got bigger fish to fry elsewhere in the team at the moment in terms of what we need right now. We need to replace the centre midfield position. We need to get some cover for Trent on the right-hand side. And we probably do need to bring in another forward and probably a more stereotypical number 9 that can play within the lines, can be the guy that you build off, because we've got the same game plan 4 seasons in a row. We will be predictable, but just because you're predictable doesn't mean that the teams can stop you. And we've said to them for the year we won the title, this is what we're going to do. You try and stop us. So I'm okay with Sancho going. We were never going to pay £300,000 a week to a player anyway, because you'd have a queue right around the building of all the players and their agents looking for a pay rise. So it's good money for Sancho. It's a good signing for United. For Liverpool, it would have been exciting, but it would have meant changes, and I don't think they would have benefited us.
No, that's fair enough. Made some good points there, to be fair. The Sancho thing with him being on the left or the right, I think he has 2 very distinct styles of play when he plays on the left compared to the right. Obviously, on the left, he's more of a goal threat, which is what he's been doing for the last few months for Dortmund. But 2.5 years prior to that, he was playing on the right. He was a very creative player, nonetheless. So I think he's added a few more goals to his game, obviously. And he can play, like you said, he can play both areas. It allows it, if we're fluid in the front 3 as well, you know, they can interchange throughout the game, and there's different threats at different times against different fullbacks. So I think he does add a lot. But I agree, the central defensive midfielder area, it needs that needs to be sorted this summer, in my opinion. And I'm a little bit skeptical about whether it will be sorted. Hussam, you okay? You good?
No, I'm not, to be honest. I'm actually very disappointed in you, Rachel, because I love it when you host, but I'm so disappointed that you decided to start with the Sancho thing. Like, that's actually pretty disappointing. So you're on the get-go triggering me already. Like, I'm triggered. I'm literally triggered right now. I can't even lie. I'm gonna answer this from United's perspective and from Liverpool's perspective. From United's perspective, this does nothing to Manchester United. They're still going to be top 4. Will they challenge for the title? No. Will it improve their side? 100%. Was it a problem in their side anyway? No, because I don't think Sancho anyway. I've had people who've watched the German league tell me that he doesn't really play that well when he's on the right side. And when he's on the right side, he's usually good in transition. Now, basically, when Oli parks the bus, which he does 90% of the time, Sancho's just going to be a right wing back. So enjoy having the right back Sancho version. So that's basically all you're getting at United. And if you don't get a defensive midfielder, you could sign Mbappe and you're still not winning the league. Like, it makes no difference to Man United. And don't forget, you still have a PE teacher in charge. So it's like that just won't change. That doesn't change unless you change Oli. No, this transfer makes no difference whatsoever.
The reductionism is real.
100%.
The reductionism is real.
Congratulations, Sancho has went to the second biggest club in England, so must be a dream come true. Unfortunately, the first big club, the biggest club, are yet to do any transfers except Konate. And I was told that none of the stuff has happened, Hussam. Why are you angry? Why are you ranting? Sancho hasn't went to United yet. Kane hasn't went to City yet. So and Haaland hasn't went to Chelsea yet. So there you go, guys. Now one of them is already done. And there's talks that the Kane thing is going to be done right after the Euros, and Chelsea are actually pushing for Haaland. So now, are we actually allowed to be upset? Are we allowed to be angry? Or should we just sit here and go like, yes, I trust in FSG, I trust in Klopp, blah blah blah, all this usual shit that you get on Twitter. Like, I'm just so sick of it, because we are one world-class signing away from winning every single thing. And I don't want to be like quoted like Ty when I say win the quadruple, but I will go there, because if we get the players of that ilk, we are cleaning house. If we sign Mbappe, because that's the signing. And you know what's very amazing? The fact that Mbappe missed the penalty, and that was 8D chess from him, because he looked at FSG and he's like, nah, these guys aren't paying any money. So let me just miss this penalty on purpose. So to reduce my price tag. So now his price tag is probably down 20 million, 30 million, which is incredible for us. He wants a structure, he wants legacy, he wants all this, which is Liverpool Football Club. So we need one world-class player. That's it. I've discussed this and argued with so many people. They're like, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Just get us Mbappe and keep the exact same team, and we win it all. We win it all. We win Champions League, Premier League, the City Cup, and the FA Cup. We win every single one of them. And now United have done the world-class signing bit. City are gonna do that, and so will Chelsea. So I'm waiting for City and Chelsea to do it to officially lose the plot now. Because Sancho to United is just the start, like that's the appetizer. Kane to City will be the destruction, absolute destruction of the league, and have the league make no point whatsoever. And Haaland to Chelsea will just be like the cherry on top of the shit cake that we're witnessing in this transfer window. So that's my thoughts, and I've actually been grounded and calm because I can go angrier than this, but I'm just being relaxed right now. I'm being relaxed.
Can I just say, just before we move on, currently right now, giving Sancho the label world class is a bit of a stretch. He's very good. He's got every potential to be world class. And at Manchester United, that's where he's expected to make that leap from having all this potential, which is what he's got, and all this ability, and turning him into a week in, week out consistent performer that we can call world class. I think we throw the label world class around far too easily these days, and I don't think Sancho's world class yet. Or he would be playing every week for England, wouldn't he? Every game we play.
Yeah, well, the England thing is anomaly. Really.
Yeah,
it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly.
That's just Southgate time.
Right, Liverpool fans. Thank you. That was very interesting. Hassam, this is grounded football. Just remember that.
No, I had to say it.
Yeah, you've been
I
sorry.
told you were going to trigger me with the Sancho topic, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm sorry. Like it came with a pre-warning.
It broke a few hours ago. It was inevitable that we were going to speak about it. Mr. Structure, Uncle Nuruddin, how are you feeling about the Sancho news? You look unimpressed, and you're muted.
2.5 years too late. Now everybody's twerking for him, and I feel sorry for the kid because most United fans think he's going to have his magic wand and it's going to turn us into a league, challenging for the league type of football team. We're not ready to challenge for the league. We are nowhere near.
No, I agree.
And I feel sorry for the younger fans, the FIFA generation younger fans. I genuinely feel sorry for them because they think that now we've got Sancho, that's it. And it isn't that our club is dysfunctional. It takes us to do a transfer to over 2.5 years. It was I think with Pogba. I think the year before there were some rumors, and then we got him afterwards. So yeah, I'm not tweeting about it. I've stayed away from Twitter because I don't want to be the party pooper. I'm not that kind of person. I wouldn't like to be that kind of person. If he can play on the right side, I have watched him against Man City. He did play on the right. I didn't see him playing on the left. And he played well against Man City on the right. But to me, what would have been great was if they were to bring Jude Bellingham, and we were going to sign another holding midfielder and a centre half. That I think would help us challenge the league. I doubt that. I hope that he comes in and he settles in at United and he can offensively offer us some balance. For me, the only position he's going to play for me is at the right, and he's got to get used to playing on the right again, because when he was a youth player, he played on the right. He didn't play on the left. All of this is just more FIFA generation stuff. Wingers playing right footers on the left and left wingers on the right. He needs to get used to going on the outside and getting balls in and doing what he does best. He's immensely talented. I agree with Steve. He's not world class yet. He's not, but he's got world class potential, and hopefully he fulfills it. But my stance is always the stance. No structure, no big trophies, no league title, and no Champions League.
Yeah.
I think in the Champions League you could fluke it, but I don't think you can fluke it now. I think there are so many teams, especially the two in this country, City and Liverpool, our closest rivals, who have too much structure. They know it too much. They have the best managers, and when you combine really fantastic managers and a brilliant football structure, that will always beat buying players here and there to just to sell shirts. To me, what signals to me that Pogba's leaving. So Pogba either going to go this summer, or Pogba's going to most likely play out his contract, and it is an absolute travesty because if we come out of the lockdown and next summer Pogba walks out of Man United for free, is an absolute. It just, to me, that would be like the icing of the cake, like the icing on that cake, or even the cherry on top of that cake, on top of the icing, because it would expose the frauds, the bankers who have complete control in this football club. He will expose them for what they are. So he brought in not just to be footballers, to play in the right wing for Man United, because he's young, he's good looking to these people, because he's mixed race. It's a fact, people. It's a fact. It's a fact. There's fetishization in the media of mixed race young people, or just mixed race people. So there is this fetishization of them because they can look racially ambiguous sometimes, and they can sell, and they're not seen as threatening. They're not as threatening to advertisers and stuff like that. Paul Pogba is a maverick because the way he dyes his hair, so he will always get spotlight. But he is in terms of commercialization for Man United to make money from. He's bought in as the next guy. So he's bought in as the guy they're gonna push to promote all sorts of madness. I've seen this again and again and again with the Glazers and these bankers that are in charge. And this don't and it won't surprise me. And we waited and waited. I'm actually interested to think that the pressure, because I was thinking they're gonna make it drag on. But I can imagine actually it was Dortmund are like, this is the deadline. We need to get this done. And last summer we gave you a deadline. You didn't meet the deadline, and that was it. He was going nowhere. And Dortmund are thinking, with the money, we need to go and get other players with this money. We need to pluck up some sort of positions in our club. So we need the money ASAP, and we need to go. So that's why Man United have signed him. But Man United would have dragged this on till the last day of the transfer, and with a new sponsor, with a new kit, because I think the new kit comes out next week or the week after, if I'm not mistaken. And so yeah, this is what it is. This is what it is. But like I said, I will tweet. I will, like most if I'm over on social media or whatever, and whether it's Facebook, a lot of times it was Facebook, I always welcome new players to Man United, because regardless what the bankers and the structures behind them, I can separate the both, the two. I can come and walk at the same time. So yeah, I would be saying welcome to Jadon Sancho to Man United. I hope you are successful, and I hope that you give great performances as you did when you were at Dortmund, and I hope that you can reach your world, to fulfill that world-class potential that people saw in you when you were a kid. And because I've watched him United youth against Man City youth. I've watched him, I've seen him, and I've known about this kid for a long, long time, because he was breaking goal-scoring records for Man City youth as a youth player for a long, long time. And only actually Greenwood, I think, broke his record in the youth team. And the first time I ever saw him, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, he is too good to play for this youth team. Like, if you ask most people, or if you find any videos, or if you find any clippings of Jadon Sancho as a youth player, he was just unbelievable in terms of like how far ahead he was of those other young players that played with him. So everything's been tipping this kid to fulfill his potential. Let's see if he can do it. But coming to Man United, it ain't easy. It comes with a lot of Twitter, can I say, drama. It comes with more like Instagram, because we have the biggest fan base in the world. We have the biggest fan base in the world. So it is every little thing's going to be scrutinized. So playing for Dortmund was a great thing for his career to start with, and then coming up now is the next step. So let's see how he handles the pressure. And the other advice that I would give him is get off social media. Get off social media. That's the advice that I would give.
No, you're absolutely right, though. He, as you guys said, as you and Steve said, he's not world class yet. He has a lot of potential, and it's not guaranteed. We've seen players that are very, very good come to Manchester United and just not fulfill their potential for various reasons, whether it's their own issues or whether it's because the club hasn't supported them the way they probably should have. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I like him. I think he's a very, very good footballer, Jadon Sancho, and it's a good signing only if we get the other key targets, because we need defensive midfielder, we need a centre back, we need a striker, which I know for a fact we won't get a striker, but we need so many different areas to sort, and we're not going to get them. And hopefully we can just get at least a defensive midfielder and a centre back. Hopefully, Brian, waiting patiently, if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, how are you feeling about Jadon Sancho? Because obviously I know you're excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I think, I agree. I agree with Nuruddin. It happened a little later. Manchester United have kind of set this tempo of the big, overly structured, like big marquee signings take time for them, and that's kind of the direction that they're moving in, which is frustrating for us as fans. It doesn't. We don't get the players and we probably need them the most, and then a lot of the hype and the excitement around it is gone afterwards. Nevertheless, I think that Jadon Sancho is a good signing regardless of whether or not United get other targets. But if United get other targets, it could end up being a great acquisition for the club. I think that Jadon Sancho is in line with what Nuruddin was saying, is the highest profile of a player that we've signed since Paul Pogba. With that does come a lot of expectations on brand increasing kind of deals and things like that. As fans, I love the fact that United has such a high stature in world football. However, I don't really care how many shirts we sell. I want the players to play well, score goals, and win games. So if Jadon Sancho can come in and help us do that, he'll do everything that we've kind of seen him do at Dortmund over the last few years as well. I am incredibly excited about Sancho coming into the team. I think that this signing is probably the one signing that I have seen in the post-Ferguson era that is not just a signing for a manager, but a signing for a club. And I think Sancho, regardless of who the manager is going forward, have a brilliant footballer that they will be able to use in their lineup. And so I think that whether it's Ali or whether it's somebody else, Sancho is an excellent acquisition to what Manchester United are trying to do on the field going forward for seasons to come. And so for me, I think he's going to offer a lot. I think that after how we treated Paul Pogba as a fan base, it's important for us to recognize that it's important for us to not place low expectations on Sancho, but to taper expectations and just let him play, let him do what he's done, and support him when he's out there, criticize him when he doesn't play well. Don't be hyperbolic about it. But just continue to support him. I think Manchester United fans need to do a much better job at supporting their players, because if they don't do that, then players aren't going to want to play for this club. And so I think that it's important for us as a fan base to take more responsibility in that regard to how, especially with fans coming back into stadiums after lockdown as well, is going to be absolutely vital that Manchester United is a place that our players don't turn up and they're like, we're going to get booed if we play like shit for 45 minutes. You know, like we have to make sure that we taper our expectations, let players go out there and play, not put too much pressure on anything, and just let things play out. And I think that ultimately, if that happens and Old Trafford can be a good place that players want to play, backed by fans who are excited to see these players, who are excited by the signings and things like that, then I think that Sancho will succeed. and he has time on his side because he's 20 years old as well. So I think that even if the fee for some people may be a little high, I think the time over time, if he can produce, it will be well worth it. And I think that ultimately it's a really good opening step, because we don't count Tom Heaton. We don't count that.
Oh, yeah, forgot about him.
But we don't count that. But I think it's a really good step in the right direction. Now Manchester United, when the reports right now are coming out that Manchester United are quote unquote now focusing on going all out to buy a center back. I need to see that played out. It's very clear that since the Euros have started, Manchester United have been progressing this deal for Sancho forward, and they've got it over the line. They've got to do the same things with their other targets, because United are going to be a 2 to 3, maybe 4 signing club for the foreseeable future, as long as the Glazers are in charge, which means our summers are going to be long and boring and dreadful to watch as fans. So for us, what that means is we have to get the right players in. And for me, we need the types of players that we need to sign going forward are not going to just be manager-specific signings, but they've got to be signings that are going to help the club progress. And a Sancho signing is that type of signing, just like a Varane would be that type of signing as well. So and I'm not saying United are going to get Varane, but if they're moving in that direction, that's along the line of a type of player and a type of signing that the club needs to be making if they want to continue to progress towards the upper echelon in the English game and on the continent as well. So I'm really, really happy with it, but it's just the beginning, and United have to do a little bit more before a ball gets kicked to really convince me that this summer was a good one. But Sancho is an excellent signing. I'm really excited to see him play.
Yeah, no, do you know what? You made some really good points there, Brian. I think, listen, we're all guilty of it when it comes to our players. When they play poorly, emotions get the better of us, and we say things that we don't always mean. And that, but yeah, you're right. We can't put too much pressure on him in terms of expecting him to be world class instantly. He's not there yet. People need to acknowledge that and not expect 30 goals a season and 30 assists a season or anything stupid like that. It's going to take a little bit of time for him, and he has improvements of his own that he has to make. So I absolutely agree with that. The Varane thing is,
It's that Paul Pogba will never recover in the eyes of Manchester United fans for how a lot of his career's gone. Like this season, he could have the most incredible season we've ever seen him have for the club, but there will still be fans that will be upset with him because of what's gone on over the last handful of years. And so I think that we need to not do that to our players going forward. Like I remember like it was after when Ali came in as the caretaker manager at the end of the season. Paul Pogba got into this conversation, looked more like a really heated argument with a fan at Old Trafford, and that's just not the stuff you want to see. That's not the stuff you want to see. Like it's one thing to have somebody behind a keyboard on their phone going at you in your DMs. It's another thing for somebody who has a season ticket to yell at you from the stands because of how you performed in the season. It's just a completely different thing. And fans are fans regardless of where they are. But I think it's important for us to recognize, and I think over the past few years we've seen the effects that. So Nuruddin's point to get off social media, Sancho, is a good one, because we've seen the effects that social media has on players. They pay attention to that stuff. They don't mute their mentions. So they get all the things that people say about them. And Manchester United is going to be a different beast even on that level. Forget what happens on the pitch. It's going to be a different beast socially for Sancho. Like, you play for Dortmund, it's great. Dortmund's a great club, but they're not Manchester United. You're not going to have people coming at you because you misplaced a pass. Like, people do that to you for when, as Manchester United fans. And so it'll be interesting to see how he can handle that level of pressure. There are millstones. It's like there are millstones in the shirts of every Manchester United player when they walk out there and play for the club. That's how much pressure there is. And he's going to have to adapt to that. But we as fans have to give him time to bed in so we can get the best out of him. But again, we will never get the best out of any of our talented players if we're not balanced all around. So it's up to the club to make sure that Sancho succeeds by putting him in a side that's going to be able to get the best out of him. So we still got some places to go. Still got a long way to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree.
The biggest thing is that the reason why Pogba gets the most of the stick, obviously, because he's quite high profile and he's on social media a lot. But it's not just even that. It's the ex-players who incite the fans. It's journalists who are xenophobic journalists. And there's a long history in this country. If you to get French players, Argentinian players, I'm more or less found out, and to a certain extent, like to black players as well, to a certain extent, there is this massive like racial and xenophobic undertones. Also, it's because England, when they meet usually the Argentinians, or when they meet the French, or when they meet the Germans, there is the England usually get knocked out in the trophy. So a hardcore of the press, there's always been in the red tops in this country. It's the rags. It's the most, just the things that you can even wipe your ass with. Those kind of mentality would always condition. I mean, we've got 2 Liverpool fans on here. It's the same people who were printing stories about Hillsborough, while Liverpool fans were there trying to save their fellow fans. They were writing the most horrid, and everybody accepted it because it was in the papers. And that's the thing what people don't forget is media, and specific, especially newspapers, journalists, and also ex-players of Man United, who, to make themselves look so amazing when they play in a completely different era, in a completely different team, try to rewrite history and go, well, because he's not doing it. There's a commentator called Steve Bauer. I actually met him a couple of times. He used to work for MUTV. So now and again, when we went to like Manchester United youth games, and he seemed like an all right guy, you know what I mean? He would walk through the crowd, and you know what I mean? United play just in the outskirts of Manchester because that's what we do. You know what I mean? Man United's youth teams play, and the women's play in another little small town outside of Manchester, because that's how ridiculous it is in terms of like having a stadium closer to Old Trafford or even to the training ground where they can put these matches on. And I'll never forget, I think Paul Pogba was injured. I think he might have been injured or he got dropped. And it was at the end of Ramadan. And he was in the car. He was being chauffeured. So he was in a car and he's watching he's got one of these like chauffeured cars, and he's watching a TV screen and he's watching a sermon of the Quran. And this Steve Bauer fella, he does shows for Sky, but international Sky. So, Sky as a product, not Sky, sorry. Just he's on one of the channels that goes overseas, right? So basically, it plays to overseas audience, and it's a Premier League channel, and it's a Premier League channel that plays to a lot of countries: Asia, Africa, Middle East, America. And Ryan Giggs is one of his guests, and I forgot who the other guests were. Stephen Bauer does not have a clue about what religious sermon and listening to the Quran Paul Pogba is doing, and that being Ramadan as well, or close to coming up to Eid. He asked Ryan Giggs the question. Man United lost the game, and Paul Pogba video was posted on social media the day after, and he's like, and look, I mean, great player for you. Look at this behavior. And I was just like, what? What are you on about? So Paul Pogba is in the back of a car, being chauffeured, listening to a sermon from a religious sermon in the Quran on television, and watching it in the back of his car, and he's like, look at this behavior. Look at this behavior. To me, that's when all of the things that I've noticed throughout the years, and all of the things that I've always done, what the hell is going on here? That to me confirmed it. And I promised myself that if I ever was to see Steve Bauer, I will tell it to his face. I will tell it to his face. And he'll just be like, what you on about? But to me, that shows like the incitement. It was the end of that season where you're talking about it, where Paul Pogba got accosted. It was the last game of the season. He got accosted by fans in the Stratford as the players were walking around in the last game of the season. And it's always the way with United fans. You don't have the courage to have a sustained campaign, even if it's 5 of you or 10 of you, to get the Glazers out or to get the bankers out. So it's always easy to have a go at the managers and the players. Like Paul Pogba is some sort of magician that's going to make us play better. Well, everybody knew Paul Pogba was bought on this short-term thing with Mourinho, Zlatan, Mkhitaryan. You know what I mean? Those players were bought for Jose to do something, but they never backed him the next season. And Jose proves we know the history, but it's always Man United fans because they always have to go after the easiest person to go after, other than looking at the bigger picture. And that's why for me, I was Moyes out, I was Van Gaal out, I was Mourinho out, and then I thought, there's something else going on here. And then they'll have to do the research to really find out, well, this is what we are, this is who we are. And these bankers who Bristol University graduates who run our football club. So to me, that's the reason why the incitement comes. So Sancho will never be immune from it. He will not be immune from it. You see the same things with Raheem Sterling, actually. Raheem Sterling left Liverpool. There are a lot of Liverpool fans who write for a lot of the journal, who write for the papers, and a lot of radio, and the way they were saying he's greedy, he's that, because they're hurting that this kid left Liverpool to go to Man City. That started it. But then it became like nobody's standing up for this kid. So lost Cameron. And then that's why he, for England, and now that's why I'm enjoying it, that him silencing the nation, because deep down they know they hate him, but they can't really, they're not even comfortable with themselves. And to find out the reason psychologically why they're hating on him is because the conditioning of the media over years and years and years.
No, it's absolutely true. I was really happy for Raheem Sterling as well, to be fair. He does get a lot of stick, like a massive amount of stick, but, you know.
To be fair, it was very, very immature in the way that he left Liverpool. He actually came out by his agents and said, they could offer me £500,000 a week, I'm not staying. I'm going to go and join Manchester City and I'm going to play through the middle. But he spent the last 4 seasons playing out wide, so that's why we have an issue with the comments that he makes and the things that he said.
Did he say that? I didn't know.
Steve, you see, can I ask you a question, Steve? Is he ever the first footballer to ever be immature when he wants away from a club?
No,
not. And he's not going to be the last. But why was the stigma all on him? Because he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave Liverpool. And to me, the biggest thing I ever saw was that a lot of Liverpool fans were editors and of newspapers and sport newspapers and radio stations and supporters of Liverpool who gathered this, but at a certain time they left it. But the rags, that the people that I know and you know who are writing the horrific stuff against the city of Liverpool and against Liverpool fans, those people carried on because they thought there's nobody sticking up for this kid. There is nobody sticking up for him. He became an easy target. That's why when he's coming back from a holiday, Raheem Sterling, he signed this and now he's buying up Palace for his mom. He thinks he's Mr. Big. And I'm like, right, wow, that continued it. But that's what the start of it. For me, Raheem Sterling leaving Liverpool and being in an immature way was never, for me, he was never going to be the first footballer. Never going to be the last. And
But we don't expect our players to act like that. That's not been the case over the years. You've also got to take into consideration 2 things. The first thing is that when we were closing in on the title, he stood in front of a TV camera and said, nobody wants to see Liverpool win the title. That's a really bad piece of judgment, that is. Then he wonders why we call it a mistake, because of the way he left and because of the conversations that he had. Second thing is, we now live... Hang on. Second thing, guys, is we now live in a completely reactionary world where social media is king. So everything is driven by the people that run their mouths, run their keyboards. And unfortunately, I'm never going to take to social media to dig out Raheem Sterling. He made his choice. We got £50 million for a teenager that was no one knew what he was going to blossom into. It's water under the bridge. It's gone. It's finished. He's a Manchester City player. I don't give a toss about Raheem Sterling, if I'm honest with you. And I'm not going to be vindictive and be angry about him, but I'm not going to waste my time talking about him and writing little columns and articles about him like some people choose to do. That's lazy journalism that lacks insight, because we all know what people think.
Hey, no, for me, it wasn't to mention to have a go at Liverpool fans or to have a go. For me,
I know.
What's also to give, I was giving a historical context to how these things start with players, how these things are built up, and how people are radicalized. How are the people are radicalized? Where a fan can go to Paul Pogba among all the team. Like Paul Pogba is the team. You know what I mean? There's managers, there's all the players who squad, but to go and abuse Paul Pogba, it's just like, wow. Well, obviously, you know, Teletop Riola doesn't help either. You know what I mean? He never helps either.
Yeah.
He will come in. But for me, that's when I first saw Raheem Sterling, and it's for me as an immature young player. There are thousands. There are absolute thousands of young players in this country who have moved, who've done controversial moves, who've done this, who said they're never going to go this way, and then they've gone that way. And I've never seen them get hounded the same because they tend.
It's also worth mentioning that Brendan Rodgers didn't help that situation when he publicly dug him out on a documentary and threatened to send him home and called him a boy. You know, you can't deal with people like that. Brendan Rodgers brought the biggest ego in football to the club with him when he joined. Glad to see he's changed the way he is. He's grown from there through his experiences, and he's a reasonably good manager these days. But when he came to Liverpool Football Club, they're writing the letters to yourself, one of you's going to let me down, and all of that stuff. He really didn't do any favours with a young impressionable lad like Raheem Sterling.
Nuruddin, sorry to cut you off, but my thing is this: like when it comes to Sterling, I think you're correct, but when it comes to like just the hate he gets, I think it's not justifiable by everyone who's not a Liverpool fan, because it's normal to hate someone who leaves your club. Like that's just standard settings. Like that's just what happened. If someone leaves, especially like to another club in the same country, I think that hits different. I know exactly what you're saying, because I've had like I've spoken to Yannicka once, and then she was like, you know, when you ask people except Liverpool fans why they hate Sterling, they never can answer you. They just don't know why. But like for us, it's obviously because he left the club. So like we do have like there is an actual reason to dislike him, and I do dislike him. But with me, it's not like with stigma or anything. It's just because he left my football club. Like that's, I think when it comes to other fans, like you'll get like a Chelsea fan, like even fans of clubs that aren't even rivals of City, like Spurs, etc. You'll see a guy go like, I hate Sterling, and then you ask him why. No response. Like I just hate him, mate, and that's it. Like and end of discussion. But for us, it's just because he left the club. Basically, no matter how he did it, there's always gonna be like people hate Suarez as well. Some people do hate Suarez. Some people do hate Coutinho. Some people do hate like it's just because of basically them choosing someone else over us. Like that's
no. For listen, I have absolutely no problem with fans hating a player because he wanted to go to one of the big rivals. I absolutely listen. Football is tribal. I understand that, and I love that. What I don't understand is racial, xenophobic undertones from media that radicalizes football fans that can't think for themselves, who don't understand that they've been manipulated, right? And out of touch journalists and broadcasters. That's what I can't. That's what I'm not accepting. I will never accept that. But football fans, of course, that's what makes football. I never want football to ever lose that kind of my club. I hate you because you left us, or that hate, you know. And that's why when I see Sterling when he goes to Anfield, he absolutely can't handle it, because the Liverpool fans let him know in no uncertain terms every time he touches the ball. That is part of football. As long as it's done on a footballing way, like there are parameters, and Steve will understand. You know what I mean? As long as there's no racism, as long as there's no abuse of his family or abuse, it is kept to him. If there's any abuse, it's kept to him, right? That I can say, because that's what football. That's what makes football. The rivalries. That's what makes football. Like that your club. You love your club. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about the people who radicalize people, media framing, and the people who literally have deep-seated racist and xenophobic hearts in their heart, who have it, but will tell you, oh no, you know. There was a thing going around yesterday on Twitter, and I remember him calling this Jamaican something, and I'm like, are you calling him now today? Are you calling him when he's scored the first goal that basically took? You know what I mean? Score that goal to beat Germany. Like, are you calling him that? Like, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even the Liverpool fans. It was Liverpool fans who were in the media and they have to be able to separate the both. Them as a Liverpool fan, and they're in their professional setting. It was coming out. It was coming out. The fans on the terraces, 100%, 100%. I would any player that leaves your club and comes back with a rival team, boo from minute one till the last minute. That's what you do. That's what football. And I never want to lose the art of football. Never. But I'm talking about journalists. I'm talking about journalists who should know better.
No, I hear that. I absolutely agree. Yeah. There's always been that racial undertones thing that's happened. Like we've seen it over the years, and yeah, Raheem Sterling has been the victim of it massively. We've seen it with Rashford a little bit as well. They were just waiting for a moment for him to screw up in some way. We've seen it with Paul Pogba. It's happened with many players, unfortunately, and hopefully that can change because I'm actually tired of seeing it. To be honest with you, it's a joke.
Yeah. The biggest thing is that, especially young people who have a lot of money, who are working class, obviously, who have a lot of money. It's a class issue as well. I mean, Steve can go into that, but it's a class issue as well. Because, when Liverpool had a lot of the players like Collymore and these other players, the way the press would write about them, you know what I mean? I felt uncomfortable about that, like, calling them the Spice Boys and all of this kind of thing. So there is this, is a class thing as well. But specifically with black players or non-white players, is stay in your place. You might have money. You might think you're all this, you're all that. Know your place and stay in it. And more than anything, I've seen that with Sterling. More than any player, I've seen that clearly with Sterling. And it's still happening. People were still saying to me, oh, I'll drop him. Just on the street, people are like, oh, yeah, I'll take him. I'm like, he's the only one that's scoring goals for England. Yeah, but, it's against Germany. I'm like...
No, I hear that. We do actually need to move on. We've been on this for 46 minutes, but I wanted to quickly go into Euros. Obviously, England beat Germany. France are out. Italy progress. Really good game between Sweden and Ukraine. Ukraine go through, and Ukraine are going to be playing England. Is it Saturday, I think?
Yeah.
I believe it's Saturday. So, quarterfinals. Quickly, obviously, what did you guys make of the England and Germany game? I'll start with you, Brian. What did you make of it as a neutral?
Yeah, I get it. Gareth Southgate's probably not the best guy to have in the seat, but I think one of the things that I've noticed recently is just that as fans we do put a lot of pressure and expectations on a lot of things, but ultimately at the end of the day, the thing that we want the most is to win games, especially in knockout football. I don't think you can get upset about the lineup all you want, but the minute one of your players scores, the lineup's irrelevant at the end of the day. And so I know that like Gareth Southgate is frustrating. His style of football is frustrating. Just how England have been misfiring, how there's lack of synergy in the team. It's frustrating to watch, and it's just not fun to watch more than anything else. But England they dominated Germany. They dominated them. They were the far superior side. They limited their mistakes to very few, and I think Southgate, despite not giving fans a more attacking side and sticking to his plan, he got it right. And I know that a lot of England fans will not want to admit that because of the feelings that they have about Southgate. But the adage in football is when your team wins, praise the manager, praise the players. When they don't win, criticize the manager, criticize the players. But we're so agenda driven, and we already have these preconceived notions made up about certain things. We pay way too much attention to starting 11s as if those are the only players who get to play in the game, and you can't make substitutions and change looks up and things like that. So, so I think Southgate got it right. He did his plan worked. He stifled Germany. He really limited them, and the players in that England team, more so than I think a lot of the other players that I've seen in the Euros up to this point, barring like maybe a Belgium or Italy, they play as a unit and all of them really want to represent their country, and I think that it helps them. And the side of the table that they're on favors them to go to the final. So the way that Southgate has them set up, the way that he asks them to play, is perfect for this tournament. And if they can continue to put in these performances, I think England will make the final. Whether they win it or not is a different thing. But Southgate has been successful with England in knockout football, despite all of these things that fans of him don't appreciate or like, and that's fair. But the results are the results. So we'll have to see what happens next round. But they dominated Germany, a team that nobody expected them to win. Gooner Express, please come outside. So, I ultimately think that, he got it right. Players turned up. He made changes that changed the game. And they end up walking out. Still, Jordan Pickford, the only goalkeeper in the tournament not to concede yet. They're the strongest side right now. They're the strongest side just based on those statistics. They might not look that great all the time, but just based on that defensively and getting Maguire back too, he was colossal against Germany. So, I mean, they've got a lot of pieces. They've got a lot of options. They're a strong team. They could go far.
No, it's fair enough. It's fair enough. Steve, how did you feel about the performance and the result last night?
Obviously, you take the win. You have to. You're pleased with that. I've got to be honest, a little bit controversial. Thought it was a really poor game of football in terms of the quality. If you look at the games the day before, where there was free-flowing football, and there were mistakes, but there was some good stuff in there to watch too. I genuinely, till the second goal went in, when everyone relaxed, I mean, you only have to look at social media when it's 1-0. They're getting pelters from everywhere. It was two poor teams, and England were the better of the two poor teams in terms of what they dished up in terms of a game of football in front of us. But Brian's right. They've got momentum, and momentum's massive, particularly in knockout football. They are a danger. They could well win the tournament purely because of that cohesive defensive unit they've got with the protection in front of the back four. Kyle Walker was really up for it. Nobody beats Kyle Walker in a one-on-one. He's just too big and he's too strong and he's too quick. Can they win the tournament? Yes, they can. Will they win the tournament? I'm not convinced. I think Italy are too strong for them. They will test us defensively more than anybody did because of the angles they create and the overloads that they do. And they've got Spinoza and Insigne down the left-hand side. So you're not talking one, you're talking two or three that come at you. So I think that's the risk that the Italians, it's a great win. But I turned the telly on this morning, and it's like they won the World Cup, the FA Cup, the European Cup, the Premier League, the boat race, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? They beat a very poor Germany team 2-0. Let's have a little bit of perspective. Gareth Southgate was right when he said beating Germany 2-0 means nothing. You go into the game at the weekend and you don't build on that. And that's a stereotypical football manager's comment. It's very cliched, but in this case, it's very true. Yeah. So in terms of England-Germany game, I thought it was a poor quality game of football. After that, somebody said, how could Muller miss the corner? And there was a really young joke in there that was thrown out on Twitter earlier on today. But to be fair, it wasn't a great game of football. You look at it for the football purist. If you're neutral, it wasn't pretty to watch. But you take the win all day long against Germany, don't you?
Yeah, but I mean, but you can't. I wouldn't be so reductionist though. To be fair, because it's not England's fault that Germany sucked. You know what I mean? It's not England's fault. Like, you can only beat what's in front of you. That's the beauty of knockout football. You got to find a way to get it done. And I think Gareth Southgate is like the type of manager that will set the team up to just like, I don't care how we get it done as long as we get it done. So like the England games are going to be boring from now to the end of the tournament. But if you walk away with the trophy, no one's going to be complaining about the style of play. Everybody's going to be singing "It's Coming Home." So
You're right. Nuruddin and I both called it last week that we both thought England would win, and I went as far as saying if Germany turned up with a back three, that they'd have no chance against England. And what did they do? So we got that. We called it right. It was Hussam who was saying that England would get spanked and knocked out as well, wasn't it, Hussam?
I'm just shocked at the energy change. Like, if I'm gonna keep the same energy, I'm not here to change my energy. If Thomas Muller scores that opportunity and the momentum shifts to Germany, they would have smashed England anyway. And then the narrative would be so much different. It would be Southgate has shit tactics. Why didn't he bring on Grealish earlier? Why is Sancho on the bench? Blah blah blah. The same things that they usually say. So I'm just gonna say these things anyway. Next game they play Ukraine. If come on Ukraine, by the way. If they don't nah, it's personal, Nuruddin. It's personal. If they don't start, if he doesn't start Grealish against Ukraine, you're not going to go into a semi-final and suddenly starting new players. And whoever comes out, I hope Denmark comes out of Denmark and Czech Republic, because
Yeah.
Denmark actually do have a chance of beating England. Because I'm all for Denmark. And this has nothing to do with the anti-England situation. I've been with Denmark ever since like the shit way UEFA treated them after the Eriksen thing. My entire thing changed. Like I actually like. You could go back and watch the watch-alongs on the thing. I was actually being a Denmark fan because, like, the way UEFA forced them to play a game of football after enduring that, and like Eriksen, at the end of the day, forget football, man. At the end of the day, he's like a colleague, like a teammate, a husband, a father, and a brother. Like it's messed up, like the way they treated Denmark. So I've been a Denmark fan since, and England are basically the Tottenham Hotspur of international football. So what do Tottenham do? They overcome the hard bit and then they lose at the easy bit. So now I want them to Spurs it up or England it up as a difference and lose against Ukraine. The thing is, for anyone listening right now, I made a bet, and this is why, learn from me, people, never make bets in knockout football. I made a bet that if England win the Euros, I'll shave half my head off. So my entire YouTube career thing is done forever. If England win, I will actively be supporting everyone against England. And anyway, I don't like Southgate, and there is no Liverpool player playing anyway. So I just have. It's just personal for me, and Southgate annoys me. And every time, like, just as a presenter, as a person who does YouTube, if I'm doing any other game, we're actually enjoying the watch along. We're like, yes, hey guys, welcome to This Is Football. It's very exciting. It's very energetic and shit. When it's England, I actually have to keep the audience engaged because of the shit football we are watching. You have no idea how hard it is. I need to keep like 10 out of 10 energy for 2 hours straight, or the viewership will drop to half because no one wants to watch that football. So now for England Ukraine, I'm gonna have to shout into for 2 hours again, England and Ukraine game. And all I'm saying is, I believe in the Yarmolenko army. I've always been a Ukraine fan, always, my entire life. So Ukraine are gonna smash England. We keep the same energy. England are gonna Spurs it up or England it up, as they say, and they're going out in the next round. That's my honest prediction.
Yeah, that's just you hoping. But Nuruddin, what did you make of the performance and the lineup? Obviously, the lineup was a bit controversial for a lot of people as well. You're muted.
I predicted a lineup as well. I predicted that England would match their shape, like Steve said. We predicted it. Germany are not a terrible team, actually. I even said that Germany, I didn't give them a chance at the beginning of the Euros. I don't know, Rachel. I think we did a review together on my channel, and I was like, they're not even making it to the next round. You know what I mean? But obviously, I knew that if they become the third place, if they win one game, then they can make it. So I was impressed by the way they played against France. They had 60% possession. They created chances, but it fell to the players that have not been on form this season. Other than a chance that fell to Gundogan because he's been a really good player. So in the France game, I thought they were unlucky. They lost to of course, Mbappe could have had 2 goals, one offside, the other one. They made decent saves here and there, but they lost to just an own goal, and that game was even. And then in the Portugal game, they absolutely smashed Portugal. And I did say to people, if England come with a back 4, they're going to get smashed. Germany will smash them. In terms of the spectre as a game, I think he's too nervous. I think he was too nerve-wracking for both, because it's a knockout game, and it was never going to be spectacular unless both teams are going attacking and thinking, okay, we're going to both focus on our attacks. We're not going to focus on anything of tactics or defensive shape. Then it could have been a fantastic game. But it was too nerve-wracking. And I thought, in every sense of the way, I did predict how Southgate was going to do. I even said to you, Rachel, that he's been playing pragmatic because he's been playing in the group stages and people were losing their heads. Because he's playing this pragmatic way so that when it comes down to it, you can't change tactics midway through the tournament so that when you play against the big teams. So he's keeping this pragmatic shape so when he comes against a big team, a big nation, at the end of the day, the German team is still dysfunctional in some ways. Muller and Hummels were brought back in after being left out for a couple of years. They were brought back in only maybe 6 or 5 months before this tournament started. And to me, that was always too late. Saying that, though, I must say Hummels performed well on the whole. I thought he would be a lot more worse than he was. But the second goal, if you see it, me and Steve talked about it. You know, we said that if you turn the ball over a certain point and you go at them, you go at that back three, they're going to make a mistake. And if anybody wants to know what type of defender Rudiger is, when he has no protection, you watch the Hurricanes go because he's absolutely nowhere to be seen. The way the ball gets switched, Luke Shaw, and then, Grealish touches it, Kane, one touch, moves it out to Shaw, and then sorry to Grealish then crosses it. So you see that, and everything that we talked about, we said what happened, except for the Muller myth, the most decorated German footballer in history. That I say it again for the people at the back, the most decorated footballer in German history. If you ask the German nation one player to go through on one-on-one at that time, in that moment in the game, it is Muller. Everybody's putting their house on Muller to score there.
What, not Werner?
Unfortunately, England had a bit of luck.
Werner would have buried it.
Yeah. I remember Euro 96. Steve might remember this one as well. And Bryant might remember. What's his name? He used to play Darren Anderton hitting the post.
Oh, he was.
In 96, Euro 96 semi-final in Germany, England. Darren Anderton, the original Mr. Signal. He was the original Mr. Signal. He's the player that I remember for being a signal. He'll play 1 or 2 games, be out for 5 or 10. He hit the post. Gasser, if he had studs where that much longer, England win that game. So the luck this time, especially England-Germany games, the ball was this far over the line. Lampard's, goal in that World Cup. Was it 2010 World Cup?
Yes.
South Africa.
Yeah.
So the luck this time in this game went to England. But I thought when the second half, 10 minutes into the second half, England took complete control of that game, and there was only going to be one winner. And even if Muller would have equalised, I thought England had the legs, and England were turning the screw. Luke Shaw and Trippier were going high and wide, and actually using German strength and turning it into weakness, and pushing Kimmich and the other left and the wing back, the other side back. So I thought, it wasn't a great spectacle. In these type of games, I am never expecting a great spectacle. 1990 wasn't a great spectacle, in that World Cup. 96 was a decent game, and England were by far the better team. In 96, Germany got away with it. They got away with murder to get it to penalties. It was England game, and England were by far the better team. But I knew this was going to be super cagey, and everything that I said would happen. Honestly, it's weird. How I saw the game, envisaged the game, that's how it became. I did say that he's going to use the pragmatic because he wants to come against the big team. And now he has to prove it. And actually, what vindicated me even more was his own words. Gareth Southgate's own words last night on 2 different interviews. He said, if we didn't win this game, if I didn't have to believe the way that first of the decisions that I made, I'd be dead man. And he used the word dead man. That's what he said. He said, I'll be a dead man because he knows everybody's coming for him, but he believes, and I think that he has right to believe that. France weren't spectacular. The last team that was spectacular, that smashed any teams in the world in the Euros or in the World Cup was Spain. Spain smashed every team in the Euros and smashed Italy in the final. In the last two tournaments, both France and Portugal were not. They were pragmatic football teams.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going for the pragmatic way of playing to get to trophies. And also another big thing that most people are forgetting, the biggest weak link of England is the defence. The biggest weak link of England is the defence. There was huge questions, and Steve will tell you, over Pickford, and there's huge questions about when they play in a 4, there was huge questions, obviously, over Maguire, and I do agree with Brian that Maguire had a fantastic game, absolutely fantastic game, but there were huge concerns. And when you play as a 3, actually, Stones and Maguire can relax and just attack the ball. And anything that goes behind them, Walker, like Steve said, he's fast. He's always been prone to a mistake. Touch wood, he doesn't make it. Him and Pickford, sometimes they lose their minds. And they've been the 2 of the most consistent players in their team. You know, they've been the 2 most consistent players in the team, actually, giving like 7 or 8 out of 10 performances in most majority of the games, regardless how the midfield or the pitch plays, the place of the pitch. So, yeah, I feel vindicated. And I did call it. I called it early. And a lot of people were telling me, getting at me, inboxing me and everything, going, you're deluded, you're deluded, you're deluded. What are you watching? What are you watching? And people were texting me, WhatsApping me on the WhatsApps.
I just understand it's knockout football. Anything can happen in knockout football. Yeah. It's not always the best team that wins these tournaments. Yeah. Like, I remember when Portugal won it, they finished 3rd in their group, if I remember correctly, and they drew all their games up until Wales. So it's not always the best team. It's knockout football. Anything can happen. Like Chelsea weren't the best team in the Champions League, and they won it.
Yeah. And from now on in, just to answer the comments on screen, now on in, it's the team that handles the occasion better, not necessarily the tactics. Because when you become emotive, you lose your discipline, you lose what tactical awareness you've got, and then you throw the game away. So the thing that will work for Ukraine and against England is that Ukraine have got nothing to lose. England are expected to win that game. So the emotion in the game may well come from the England team. So we'll see. Like you say, Rachel, there's 8 teams left. 8 teams can win this tournament. Make no mistake about that.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing about the Euros right now for me, is that any of the teams that are left in this competition can win it. All of them, I think, Rachel, you and I, we were talking on the watch along, and you made the point about how every single team in the tournament that's left have incredible strengths and glaring weaknesses that their opponents can exploit. And it makes the games exciting. Like I could see, I mean, like all 8 teams that are left, I could see all 8 teams kind of like finding a way to get to a final. Like all of them have a lot of things to offer. You can obviously look at some of the teams. You like maybe Ukraine is like probably one of the weaker teams that's left, but there's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot that team has to offer. It'll be a tough matchup for England.
Massively.
It'll be a tough matchup for England in the sense that England has gotten to play in a way like Ukraine don't, like outside of like Yarmolenko and some other players, Zinchenko, like they don't have a lot going forward, and England are gonna have to take the game to Ukraine. And I think that, like, so there's going to be, if there was pressure on Southgate to play Grealish and Sancho and Rashford, you name them before, imagine the pressure that's going to come from when that lineup comes out on Saturday, right? If you don't see a Grealish in the team, if you don't see a Sancho in the team, what are you expecting to, like, are we just going to play everything in front of the Ukraine, like in front of Ukraine's back line? Like, give me a break, you know? So I think that's one of the things that could end up backfiring against England. But Southgate, this match upcoming will be a really good test to see what Southgate's made of. Is he able to kind of flip what he's doing just a little bit, tweak what he's doing just a little bit to get the result?
He won't change it. He
should, though. He should.
But to be fair, he shouldn't even need to. He shouldn't even need to change it. They should be able to play that exact same lineup and get a result regardless. But it just depends. It just depends.
Can I tell you why I feel like he needs to change it? Because when you look even at the group stage games, and listen, everyone has just been discussing the same player ever since the start of the tournament, Jack Grealish. Everyone's just been talking about the same guy. So when you look at it, the first game against Croatia, he doesn't come on. Okay, so forget that game. The game against Scotland, he comes on, immediate impact. They don't score, but England look more threatening. The third game, he provides the assist. Yesterday, England look way more lively, and he provides a perfect assist for Kane, which is people like me who've actually been, and Rachel would know this, defending Kane on spaces everywhere, that it's not his fault, it's the system, etc. I think now the reason why I think he needs to change it is, against Ukraine, this is your last chance. Your last chance to actually just try and include Grealish in the starting 11. I don't care what do you do is specifically, maybe turn Sterling into a right winger, Grealish on the left, maybe play Grealish in number 10, having him in a floating role, whatever it is. At the end of the day, this is your opportunity now, because 100% it's wrong to change a lineup for a semi-final. So it doesn't matter who they play. Czech Republic, Denmark, like Jordan, it doesn't matter. If you're playing in a semi-final, you don't change the lineup. So this is his last opportunity to actually start Grealish and see what he does from the beginning. Because yesterday, even though he had a short cameo, he got man of the match shouts. The same against Scotland. The same against Czech Republic. So it's just the discussion has been around one person. So if he doesn't change it for Ukraine, he's never going to change it.
But the issue though is that I think fans go from being either really hyperbolic, they overindulge, over-explain things, or they become very reductionist, and where they try to make things like yesterday we saw some reductionist kind of things from fans on Twitter saying, see, if you would have started Grealish, that's what we would have gotten, which is bogus. Like, there's no way to expect Grealish starting coming in from minute 1 to do what he did when he came on in minute 60. That's just not real. So like, people have to recognize that the reason Grealish was able to be as effective as he was directly linked to when he showed up in the game. And so I think that that's the thing, is like Grealish has, I think personally, more to offer England from the bench than he does from the start. Personally, Sterling was excellent in that game for England. Excellent. And I think that like Sterling, if he can put on a performance like that against Ukraine, they might not need Grealish to come in and change the game. So go ahead.
Two things. One is that I agree. We have an initial game plan. When that's not working, you can turn to Grealish because he's a game changer. If you put your game changer on from minute 1 and then you look at the bench, who are you going to bring on to give you a Grealish impact?
Yeah, look what happened to Ollie, right?
And the second point being, Gareth Southgate is the most risk-averse manager I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. So when you talk about being pragmatic, which Nuruddin does, and he's right, he's pragmatic to the nth degree. He won't make any changes because, I know you're right, Sam, this is his last chance to try something different, but he'll go with the notion, if it's not broken, don't try and change it, because it isn't broken and it's getting the result.
Yep. Yeah.
That's fair enough. I'm just gonna say one sentence before I let you go, Nuruddin. Like, based on the evidence, I'm saying start him. And I look, the game changer arguments, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, that's like saying, let's bench Mo Salah. He's the game changer, so he's going to come on and make a difference. I think, honestly speaking, coming into this competition, England only have 3 world-class players, and that's Grealish, Sancho we would disagree on, but that's my opinion, and Kane. Now, Grealish has actually not just been a media hype or something. Like, he came on and has shown us evidence of what he can do on the football pitch. And the game he started against Czech Republic, he actually created the only goal of the game with a cross on his weaker foot. So I have evidence to back up why he should start. And if he doesn't start against Ukraine, then he's not starting against Denmark, then he's not starting against Italy or Belgium in the final. And if he doesn't start against Italy, touch wood, they don't actually make it there. But if he doesn't start against Italy or Belgium in the final, then the repercussions are 10 times higher because of the quality of opposition. That's the problem.
Well, you're right. You're not wrong.
I agree with
it's definitely going to be a change. He's not going to play the 5. Well, I hope he doesn't. I think 4-3-3 would be the better formation for England. We are all expecting Ukraine to defend because they're the underdog team. The thing about Ukraine, what makes them dangerous, is youthful youthful energy. It's youthful naivety. It's that they know that nobody gives them nobody gives them a chance in hell. And it is that aspect of youthful ignorance. Is that, so what? It's a one hit, we're going to go for it. The other night, I was counting actually during the last bit of the game, last half an hour, I was counting how many right-footed players they had on the pitch. I think I counted 3. Everybody else on the pitch was a left footer.
I remember you talking that actually.
This is the most left-footed team. That's because he made about 5 changes. So I don't know if those 5 are going to play against England. You know what I mean? Of course, they had a couple of injuries, and obviously we're hoping that just for his career that he's all right. I forgot the guy's name. Oh gosh. Damn.
No, I know who you're talking about. The one that got hit in the knee. That was a horrible.
That was one of the worst. That was one of probably the worst follow through I've ever seen in my life. Like, witness. And I was behind the goal when Bost, was it for Coventry?
Yeah.
Got into a collision with Schmeichel through the corner, and I'll never forget that. I was right directly. I sneaked in and I sat right behind the goal, and I'll never forget Cantana's face. But he was like, he put his hand on his head and walked away. So that's what they have. Ukraine. They've got incredible left footers. They have this youthful team. Shevchenko was one of my favorite strikers of all time. One of my incredible for AC Milan. And Steve will probably say, I loved him in 2005 because he missed the penalty. He missed the penalty in a game, in one of the most one-sided Champions League games in history, where in the first half, AC Milan just absolutely played the perfect football. And Liverpool players were just there like, oh, okay. You know, and I remember he's arguing this in the call. It could have been 4 or 5 in that first half, and Steve will tell the story. Rest till the recovery happened in the second half. But for me, Shevchenko is a brilliant, and it's the first time ever they've ever gone to a quarter final, to ever get past in the knockout stages. So it's an absolute adventure, and it's a beautiful thing for those young players.
And you know what? They're going to enjoy it. Whereas England will be attacking themselves. There's the difference. The expectations are very different, and that makes people form differently.
Exactly. So for me, the game, I think 4-3-3 would be the better formation. I think they might bring back, and I agree with Brian and I agree with Steve, that you might risk Grealish, right? But I think Mount will come back in the midfield because he's had a couple of days to train and everything. Now he's back. He's back out of that isolation, which was one of the weirdest isolations I've ever known. Because the Scottish manager, all the other players shared a dressing room with Billy Gilmour. They never had to isolate. They were all, you see the Scottish manager like holding him, Billy Gilmour, after the game, and it's super surreal. It's all super surreal anyway. But Mount will be back, and I would expect England to go with a back 4 and 4-3-3. But he might surprise us, but definitely he has to change the shape. He has to I think Mount will definitely have to play. But for me, depending how, because the thing about Rice was getting cramped up and all of that kind of stuff. So they might play Phillips and then play Bellingham. Or Henderson. Actually, they might play Henderson, Because the thing about Henderson is that he's fantastic on the quick ball. Let's say that, it's called the around the corner. I call it around the corner pass, where he basically picks up from the right back, and he can swing it over his shoulder to one of the people who are playing on the right. He's very good at that. He's got really better at that, Henderson. He's improved that aspect of his game playing for Liverpool. And so I would think maybe Henderson, because Rice was cramping up, and there was one moment where he was off the pitch, and he was if he's recovered in time, I would definitely play Henderson, Mount, and Phillips as the guy. And my top 3 would be Sterling, undroppable. Obviously, it is definitely going to be Kane. And I think he might go with Saka again, or he might bring Foden in. You know what I mean? But I think in this game, you might need Sancho. But they're going to defend, most likely. I'll be shocked, unless the game starts and Ukraine go for it from minute 1 and think we're going to stop first, and then we'll defend for our lives.
Yeah.
I would doubt it. I think England will be on the ball, so you need creativity from midfield. You don't need, and I think Henderson has that. Henderson can give you both. I think him and Bellingham are the only two who can give you both in terms of, especially with Henderson. That over the shoulder pass where he would get. I can imagine him getting it from Walker and hooking it to out wide on the right hand side to somebody to run into the ball. So definitely England need more creativity. I would change it. I won't play 5. I think the 5 was specifically to nullify the German strength.
No, I agree. I think they need to change it and
But
get a bit more creativity in there.
it's going to be in here between the ears.
Nuruddin,
England.
you haven't told us what you envision for the Ukraine game. We need to what you envision.
I envision England to win. If England score first, I think England will win. England are going to win. Score first, but England have to have more creativity in midfield for me. Because we understood Germany. It was a specific game against Germany. That's why he can't be that way. He has to play. He has to go back to 4-3-3, and he has to. I think Mount will definitely come back in the team, and I believe that England score. I think that psychologically and mentally the Ukrainian players will go down, and we already saw last night. As soon as the red card for Sweden. That's when they energized and they grew more in confidence. And actually, Sweden played better, hit the post. Both of them hit the post, the bar. But Sweden looked like they were unlucky. Even though I hate Sweden, I can't stand them, and I'm glad England are not playing them. Me personally.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Black and Deep does have a question though. He says, "Why do you think Sancho can't get a look in? He's perfect for games against teams who will use a low block, as he has the ability to unlock a defense and hit teams on the counter." So
I don't think he suits games that sit in a low block. I think he suits teams that play on the stretch, so he can use his pace to get in behind them. So I'm a bit puzzled by the question, to be honest with you. He can't get a look in at the moment because the people playing in those positions are not doing anything wrong. It's really no more complicated than that.
Exactly. I think I would go along with that. But for England tomorrow, regardless whatever the formation is here. Is what's between those ears. Is how much they do not let get the pressure to get on them, and that they just take it at this game. It is 190 minutes, and it could be extra time or penalties, but it is that game, and that's what they have to do. If they start thinking about semi-final or final, any of that business, good night, Vienna. It's going to be England are coming home. England are coming home with a bang from Rome. So they don't, honestly, to me, it's about the handle. It's about how they handle the pressure. And I think this group has got some unity. That's what gives me hope about this young England team, that he has fostered kind of a club kind of atmosphere. We saw the subs. The subs were the first to congratulate whoever scored yesterday. And they do have that. And we've never seen that. Me and Steve are not used to that type of thing for England. In the last 30 years almost, maybe the last 25 years of watching England, it was divided, as all the great players who retired have told us. There was a Liverpool table, Man United table, Chelsea table, Arsenal table. That's what it was, and I don't think it's that anymore. So, yeah, I'm expecting England to score first. I think.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. We do need to move on a little bit though, because
go for it.
This has been a long stream again. This is my bad. This is my fault. But everyone's so interested when they speak. So, quickly touch on the France Swiss game. Congrats to Switzerland. I thought they were excellent in that game. I thought France were disappointing overall. Who are Switzerland playing next?
Spain.
Playing Spain. Okay.
That'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, it will be a good match. I just want to quickly go through your predictions for the game. So we need to talk about the managers that are coming to Tottenham and Everton. But yeah, predictions: Switzerland and Spain. Brian, what are you thinking?
I think it's going to go to penalties. I think it's going to go. I think it'll be 2-2, and I think it'll go to penalties, and Switzerland will win. I don't trust any of the players in that Spain team to do anything of note. Like they're so. I mean, after that Unai Simon mistake, if he starts for Spain against Switzerland, like that's a problem. That's a problem for me. That was one of the worst goalkeeping errors I've ever seen. It's just one of those. It's one of those things where there's such things having too much time to do something, and I think that's one of those moments Just kind of switched off for a second, touched it into the back of his own net. They're strong, Spain, are when they're having to play from behind, but when they need to force themselves onto an opposition, they struggle. And I think that this Switzerland is probably one of the most like hard-nosed, like dogged teams left in the tournament. And they've got some quality about them. So they knocked off France. So they need to be taken seriously. Spain aren't just going to roll them. So I think it'll be a really good matchup. But I think Switzerland will win.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Steve, what are you thinking? Spain or Switzerland?
I think 10 goals in 2 games for the Spanish. That in international football, that's insane. I think I do think they'll be too strong for Switzerland. That would have taken an awful lot out of Switzerland the other night because that was a real emotional thing and a real physical battle. And you can have 2 or 3 days recuperation, but it might not be enough. I think Spain will be too strong. For Spain to win for me.
I 100% agree with everything Stephen said. I kind of give the analogy of when in tennis in Wimbledon, because I love Wimbledon, I love watching tennis. And when an absolute nobody comes in absolutely in that first Monday, the first Monday of Wimbledon, where a qualifier knocks out one of the top seeds. And then the next game, because they get so emotional, they emotionally drained, and then the next day they have to come out and play against somebody else who's on their level, and they get beaten. That's what the analogy that I'm putting into them. The Swiss, the emotions that they're feeling for the first time in the history, it's the first time they've ever beaten France. It's the first time ever they won a penalty shootout in terms of like in a big competition, and it is. I can't see Xhaka doing it again. I'm sorry. For Arsenal, he would have those moments. I can't see him doing it again. And emotionally,
he's not available. He's not available for me.
Yeah, he's suspended for that game.
Wow. Well, that's it then. But basically, that's it then.
Right off. Just right off.
They're not gonna have any other creativity. Who's going to create from midfield? I think the only thing would be is that Spain. Why Spain are still dangerous in this competition, and I go with what Steve said before. They scored a lot of goals, but they've missed so many, Steve. It's unbelievable. The chances that Morata's been missing and the other players that have been missing, absolute sitters, right, left and center. But they still scored that many goals in 2 games. And I'm telling you now, if there was another minute and a half, 1 minute and 30 seconds in that game of extra time, in 90 minutes in extra time, minute left of that game, Croatia would have beaten them. I am telling you now, they were holding on to there by their fingernails. And the best thing that happened was the referee whistle went and they went to extra time. He organized them again and composed them again, got into their heads, and then they started to play their football. But that keeper saved them, Brian. He absolutely more than redeemed himself. The save that he made when there was 30 seconds to go was one of the best saves I've seen from close quarters. I know it's the striker that used to play for Leicester. I know he's not terrific in front of a goal. He puts himself about. He's not. But he whacked that ball, and that keeper redeemed himself. And before that, he made another fantastic save as well. So these things happen in football. I think aspects of it was that he was already concentrating on the next pass. And I've got to say, Pedri, 18 years old. Oh,
he's amazing.
Very talented. Very talented.
Oh my God!
It's a shame he's going home on Friday, but he's talented. Yeah.
He plays like he plays like he is peak at his peak. I am absolutely scared for him because I'm like, can you play any better than this? But the biggest challenge to him would be, can he be consistent for at least 5 or 6 years? Forget decade, because if he's consistent for a decade, he's gonna win the Ballon d'Or and the European Player of the Year for a long, long time. Honestly, he's going to keep winning. What he did in that game, the space he was finding, was incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I doubt it now without Xhaka. I can't see where the creative output is coming from in midfield.
No, that's fair enough.
That's fair
Good
enough.
points then. Wissam, what are you thinking? Switzerland or Spain?
I think this is not a close game at all. I think Spain absolutely smashed Switzerland. I think Spain will win by 3 or more goals. The mental drain that they've spoken about and everything, and no Granit Xhaka. Even this would sound crazy if we're doing an Arsenal prediction, like, ooh, no Granit Xhaka. But we're doing a Switzerland Granit Xhaka, which is a totally different animal. So I think for this game, no Xhaka. And I have to say, Bryant as well, like on the watch along for Spain Croatia, I do a part where like I actually get people from the live chat on to tell me their opinions and stuff. And I got honestly 3 out of 6 people telling me that Simon was actually man of the match because he, as Nuruddin said, more than redeemed himself. He made so many saves after that mistake. It's honestly unbelievable. The save from Kramaric, the one Nuruddin was referring to, unreal save, unreal. So he made up for it, and I think he should start. And I think Spain smashed Switzerland by 3 goals or more.
I just don't think that Spanish defense is good enough. And so for me, I gave the goalkeeper a hard time. I still say it's one of the worst goalkeeping mistakes I've ever seen. It was horrible. He did, yeah. Dubravka was bad, but it's Dubravka. Yeah, like it's Dubravka. He plays for Newcastle, like whatever.
Ryan, do you not remember when his first game for Newcastle, he had a man of the match performance?
I do remember. I do remember that. And then his career continued. He should have quit. But but no, I mean, like I thought that Simon he recovered well from that mistake, but his defense let him down with 10 minutes to go in that game against Croatia. And for me, and even when the whistle blew for extra time, when Croatia had the first big chance of extra time, and I was confident that if they put that in, they were going to win the game. Were it not for the goalkeeper who made an excellent save right from inside the 6-yard area. So he did his job. He more than redeemed himself. You're right. But I do not trust that Spanish defense at all. I think they will leak goals against Switzerland. And if Switzerland get at them and can score first, it's going to be hard for Spain, I think, because the more expansive they get, despite all of their gifts and all of their talents in attack, like you have players like Seferovic who's got a good finish on him. Players like Embolo who's got pace and power for days. They're gonna struggle. So I think it will be closer than people are giving Switzerland credit for. Spain are strong. They should win, but they're strong. They should win, but I think that Switzerland will give them a really hard time.
Can I just say something? The only way I see Switzerland beating them, if Switzerland do exactly what Croatia did in that last 20 minutes in that game, in 90 minutes.
Force them back.
What Croatia did is to hit the ball into the box, get 2 big lads up there, and overload on that side, and hit that long ball straight.
Spain are really bad in the air.
What we found out that Laporta and the other guy that Man United are linked with, apparently, they get absolutely bullied. That's what Croatia did. Croatia made it old school type of football. Went wide, slide and wide, and get the ball in. And they did not know what's going on. And we already know the striker for Switzerland, he scored for me the best header in the competition.
That was incredible.
Bullet header. The bullet header, the first header, that is what you call textbook. If you're coaching kids, that you have to take that clip and show them that is the way to head a ball. And that's the way to hold off as defenders and to absolutely bury it. The way the direction and in the bottom corner, no keeper was saving that. So that's the only thing for me is Switzerland. If they have to change their style of football and go long and get 2 lads to go up there and fight those 2, you can get at Spain. If you fight them, the 2 centre halves, you can get, and that's what Croatia proved. And I was saying to the Croatian team, to the manager, why didn't you do these changes at halftime? What are you doing? What was he thinking? It was incredible. That game for me is the best game I've seen in the tournament.
Yeah, really good game.
That's fair enough.
Rachel, can you pull up the comment again from Val, because I need to help him a little bit. The one where he asked, Val, this is what I need you to do. If you think we need to sign Xhaka, I need you to make one more comment like that and then delete both of them and then rethink your life decisions. If you think Liverpool are going to sign Granit Xhaka, I need you to actually make another comment, like copy paste it and just send it again, then delete both of them, just so you realize the significance of error of judgment if you think Granit Xhaka actually gets into the Liverpool midfield. I just had to say that.
John McGinn gets in. John McGinn gets in there because that's who you're gonna sign, right?
The thing is, Brian, you don't
Wow,
know.
not like this.
You've
I'm
not
kidding,
met
I'm
me
kidding,
before.
I'm
Rachel
kidding.
knows this.
Kidding.
I actually made an entire video on this on Twitter, and it got 25,000 views, and I got roasted by so many people when I said, because I had an entire rant that we were linked to John McGinn, a 27-year-old who still plays for Aston Villa. If he was any good, he would have signed for someone already. So that. Listen, let's just leave that alone. But
No,
anyway,
McGinn's not a bad player. He's not a bad player.
He's not a bad player.
I'll take McGinn more than Fred. I'm not
For sure.
I'll
For
give
sure.
him
Absolutely. I'll take McGinn more than those two.
We have different standards, people. We're the like we have 6 Champions League titles. Where we've won the league more recently, so it's like different. We're thinking over here.
I love how you use the number of your Champions Leagues, but not the number of your league titles. I feel you. I see you.
19 league titles. Who won it recently?
Oh no. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing the United Liverpool thing. No. We're gonna move on a little bit and quickly touch on managers. Nuno has officially been announced as the new Spurs manager.
Oh my word.
Now, I personally find this very interesting because Wolves, for me, didn't play the most attractive football. A lot of Spurs fans wanted attacking football, pot football, etc., etc. I find it very interesting that Spurs have gone for Nuno, and I'm very curious to see how patient Spurs fans will be with Nuno. Because I think he did a good job at Wolves, like getting into where they are, sort of in the league. Obviously, they fell off a little bit last season, but up until that point, he progressed them very, very well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know what you guys think of this. So we'll start off. We'll go backwards. We'll start off with Nuruddin. What do you think of this appointment?
I think you judge Nuno. Nuno in the Championship was very attacking. He went absolutely hell for leather, smashed everybody in the Championship, bought them up. They won this Championship. They were the best team by far in the Championship. He came into the Premier League. He knew he couldn't go against the big guns. And he is somebody that I absolutely detest because the way he sets his team up against Man United. I thought it was a bug against Wolves, but I think he's a managerial style. I actually like his backroom coaching staff. I like the fitness because they keep their players fit, usually. I like his team that he has around him. I think definitely now most players are going to be linked from Wolverhampton to Spurs now. I think if Harry Kane goes, Neto is definitely going to sign for Spurs. You've heard it here first. If Neto's not bought by the big European teams or another big Premier League team, Neto is going to sign for Spurs. And then Spurs will make money from him to go for him, goes to Real Madrid or Barcelona. If he carries on in the same vein, developing and getting better. I don't want that to happen. I would want Man United to go and get Neto. But obviously, we're not going to get Neto anymore. And hopefully, Neto does not come to bite us in the backside. But I think a lot of the best players from Wolves will be linked now with Spurs. And if Harry Kane goes that 100 million or whatever, I don't think Harry Kane's worth 100 million at all. I think in this current day market, he's worth 60, 70 million. But that's what English tax gets you, doesn't it? It gets you 100 million. And I think Nuno has to adapt. I think he adapted in the Championship. He adapted again to the Premier League because he wanted to become hard to beat. I think he's definitely going to play 3 at the back at Spurs because they can't defend already. So he's going to definitely, and he's already got one of his right wing backs there already. He's already got the Irish guy already there. He's just going to play Davis as a wing back as well. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I think in the top 6, they're not going to space and not going to be as soft underbelly as they were. I know with Spurs, regardless of the manager, but Nuno in the big games will absolutely put the alarm on, lock and key, padlock everything on, and they will not be an easiest to beat Spurs. It'll make them very difficult to beat, and especially if he gets the money from Sancho, he'll improve that squad 100%. So I am just going to be interested, but our Spurs are going to be patient because the football is not going to be full on attacking unless they will forgive him if he only goes defensive against the big six, most of them will forgive him. But if they beat and attack the other teams, then they'll be happy with that to start with in the first season. But he can't continue for the duration of his time playing horrendous football. He can't. He can't, because Spurs fans, regardless what we say, we all take the mick out of Spurs fans, but their club has always played good football. Always. And since I can remember, they've always played good football.
No, that's true.
And their fans value that. Their fans will value that. Some of them will value that more than winning a trophy.
I'd say under one day Ramos, actually, I didn't think they played particularly good football.
I thought they were a decent attacking football. I thought they were still they were exciting to watch. They weren't boring to watch.
Oh no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. For some, what are you thinking of this appointment?
I remember like when United sacked Mourinho, Neville came out and said, like, United should never hire a defensive coach anymore. And I think like Tottenham are just like, they don't even learn from other people's mistakes. Like, Tottenham fans at the end of the day, and we all know Tottenham fans, and this is not to reduce the Tottenham Football Club or anything, but they really cling on to the fact that they play attacking football and that's what they enjoy. And what Nuruddin said is spot on. Some of them actually would take like offensive football, being entertained, over trophies, and that's fair enough. That's just how they support their clubs. We can't tell them how to support their club, but they're hiring like. I've spoken to a Wolves fan this season when I was doing a preview, and he was like, we have played such shit football this season that him as a Wolves fan is struggling to watch his own team. So like, it's hard. It's hard to envision Spurs fans actually accepting Nuno, having just went through Mourinho, who's at least a serial winner, so they could actually have something to lay back on, to go like, oh, but at least Mourinho is a serial winner. He could win us at trophies, etc. Nuno is not even a serial winner, so it's not like you actually have something to lean on or something to soften the blow. I think he's never going to get accepted by Spurs fans, and he's going to play the same way he plays at Wolves, because a manager is not going to change his tactics overnight. So he's going to play 5 at the back, play defensive, play pragmatic, etc. Just the usual, the Portuguese school of management. So I think that's definitely a wrong appointment for the wrong club, and it's probably not going to be accepted by Spurs fans.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Steve, what do you make of this appointment?
Well, it kind of tells you where Spurs' project's at right now. They came out of the Champions League final, which they lost. You have to do a couple of things there. You have to grow and learn adversity. You have to take it forward. You have to use the fact that you got there to build the club and take it on. They didn't do that. They had a terrible season under Poch. He left, and they brought in Mourinho. I think everybody to a man knew that the Mourinho thing wasn't going to be a success, because the DNA of the club and Mourinho don't work together. So it kind of tells you Spurs have settled for kind of being where they were 3 or 4 years ago again, and try and build from that situation. If they sell Kane and they get £100 million for Kane, who does he sign? If he goes and signs Wolves players, it'll be over for him very quickly as the manager of Spurs, because it just didn't work, did it? They were a second half team at best. They get battered in the first half, go in, have a few well chosen words in the change room, and come out and play a bit better in the second half, and occasionally grab a draw. It's a strange one. He hasn't gone forward. This is new now in terms of his own development until the last 2 years. When he came in, he was bright, breezy. Everyone liked him. He's a charismatic guy, and he seemed to have got a little bit of something going with Wolves, and then it became intransient. It never went anywhere, and I think that's Spurs' problem right now. Under Levy and Enoch, Spurs are never going to accomplish anything. They've got this fantastic football ground, and it is fantastic. They've got all the commercial things in place, but what they're doing in terms of on the pitch with their recruitment and their managers, and what they're going to lose in terms of players. He needs to buy 2 centre-backs for a start. So that's where his money will go if he sells Kane, because Alderweireld and Sanchez are absolutely dreadful in the heart of their defence. So strange appointments, and it kind of tells you exactly where Spurs are right now. They've gone backwards for me.
I agree. I think this is my dad's a Spurs supporter, and when I told him the news, he just looked at me and then sort of went back to sleep. There was just no emotion from him. So it kind of sums it up, really, doesn't it? It's a very strange appointment. And And as Gagandeep says, right, he was the cheapest option, won't demand a lot from the board financially. They have no structure or direction. How do you get linked from attacking managers like Ten Hag and Francesca to Nuno? So yeah, it seems like Spurs didn't really have a plan. It was very much a scattergun approach this summer, with the whole manager thing. It was 70 days, I believe, it took them to sign a new manager, linked with all sorts of managers, different styles, different expectations, and to end up with Nuno is it's embarrassing. Not because Nuno is this terrible manager, but because of how far they've fallen again. So it's pretty horrendous, really. And I don't think any Spurs fans are particularly excited about it, which is sad because when you get a new manager, when you get a new player, there should be a little bit of excitement or a little bit of optimism or something, and they just don't have
I
that.
think that's been knocked out, totally knocked out of them now. That it wouldn't have mattered who they got. There'd be some problem with all of the recruitment. So I think Spurs fans have had a really raw deal off their club, and their club owes them something. So
Yeah. It's such a weird scenario. Levy has let his fans down with this appointment. He let his fans down when he didn't back Pochettino with any signings the year before he took him to a Champions League final. He let his fans down when he appointed Mourinho, whose style of football and managerial prowess adds nothing to the project that Spurs have been building over the last few years. And he's let his fans down with appointing Nuno, a manager who is not going to give Tottenham fans what they deserve in watching their team play enterprising, entertaining football. I know people who are Spurs fans over here in the States, and they say, like, at the end of the day, I just want to be entertained. At least if we're not going to win anything, I want to enjoy watching my team play. And as a fan, at a minimum, you deserve that. At a minimum, you deserve to enjoy watching the team you support play. Because if you're not winning anything and you don't enjoy it, and there are no family ties that help you get you to support that club, you might as well choose anyone else that can give you those things. And so for me, for me, Levy's mistake came when he thought that Spurs team was good enough to win trophies, that he fired the manager that got them into that position and appointed a manager who's well past his best, despite all the things that he's done over the past decade in Mourinho. And the fact that he did not give Pochettino adequate signings when he had a system that had those players firing on all cylinders is beyond me. So he's really letting the club down in this regard. Now, with that being said, like, congratulations to Nuno. The work that you've put in at Wolves and over the course of your career has led you to becoming the Tottenham Hotspur manager. Like, what an incredible accomplishment for you to be able to take this step up. All the best to you. All the best to you. I hope that you're back in the summer to be able to do the types of things that you need to do with your team to ensure that you're successful, whatever that looks like. And if we look at the reports and things over the summer, they didn't bring in Conte because there was no cohesion. They didn't bring in Fonseca because there was no cohesion. Fonseca wanted to build an attacking team. Levy didn't. Things like that. So you have all of these different things that are going on. Levy needs to figure out how he's going to lead this club from the chairman's perspective and actually help his managers succeed, because he's let two down now. He's let two managers down. Pochettino should not have failed at Spurs. Mourinho should not have failed at Spurs. He's letting his managers down. So he needs to figure it out. He needs to figure it out, or the fans are going to turn on him, and it's not going to be pretty.
They've already turned, to be fair. They all hate Levy. They all hate him. There's no point there. I don't think there's much that's going to happen to redeem him, because I don't think Spurs are actually going to invest significantly into the squad, especially with the stadium that needs to be paid off as well now.
Yeah, so I agree.
I think I've said it before, I think Spurs are in a really bad spot. I think they're just going to get worse and worse, and they're going to go back to being a 10th place Spurs, like old school Spurs, finishing between 10th and 12th, having these horrible starts, and hopefully they come back, but nothing really special is going to be coming from them, to be honest with you. But guys, this is probably going to be the end of the show, though. Nuruddin, quickly say what you want to say.
I think that I think they can. I don't think there's going to be as bad as everybody's making out. I think he's a clever manager. I think if he gets backed and he gets his players in, I think Spurs, he can do something with Spurs. I really like him and his backroom staff. I don't know. There's something about them. I watched a documentary about them, and they're very much together as a team. But he's definitely can't go to Spurs and be uber defensive. He can't be. I know definitely he'll play 3, and sometimes playing 3-4-3. You know what I mean? It can be. It doesn't have to be 5. You know what I mean? 5-2. You know what I mean? 3. It doesn't have to be that. You know what I mean? So I think he definitely has to be a bit more attacking. And in the Championship, he's got it in him, because in the Championship, Wolverhampton was just, they were pumped, honestly, smashing every team in that season before they came up. So he's got it in him to play attacking football. That's what I mean. He's got it in him, but it's about how Daniel Levy and everybody else backs him.
No, that's fair enough. We'll just have to see what happens and see how they get back. Well, if he gets backed in the summer, because Spurs do need a lot of surgery in their team. Let's be real. It's not a great squad they've got there.
Rafa to Liverpool. Steve, are you all right with that?
Well, Everton.
Everton. What Rafa did in terms of football, bringing us Champions League and an FA Cup, he'll always be remembered for that. What Rafa did off the pitch, showed his integrity and decency around things to do with Hillsborough while he was the manager of the football club. He will always be loved and respected by the fans of Liverpool Football Club. He's a football manager. He's got to wear. He's gone to Everton. We would have picked a different club for him if we could, but it's not our choice. So I know I speak on behalf of a lot of Liverpool fans. Good luck to him. I hope you don't win a throw-in, but at the end of the day, we're not going to have a beef with you, because your legacy and your history at the football club runs too deep for us to hold that against you. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Steve, I lived in Liverpool. I went to university in Liverpool. To me, I didn't see that much hatred. It was like Man City with Man United. To me, my generation never saw that much hatred and never took it too seriously, because Man City were just Man City. Like they were Man City. Like so. When did you
go to university in Liverpool?
I went to University of Liverpool. I was there actually 2005, from 2001 to 2005.
Right, well, since then, it's got a whole. We were talking about this off air before. It's our most toxic relation with any of our rivals, Everton, at the moment. They are absolutely disgusting.
What? You serious?
Yeah. They punch our stewards in the back of the head. They throw hot coffee over them when they're walking past. They absolutely despise Liverpool Football Club. You know, the things they've done, the banners they put up outside Rafa's house, the banners they put up outside the football club. At the end of the day, there are things going on in the world which are far more concerning and far more alarming than football. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. At the end of the day, as I said before, I'll always respect Rafa for what he did. I'll also remember in the last 12 months of him being manager at the football club, it was absolutely appalling. He completely lost his way. And it was time to move him on. He's not coming back. He's not going to be anything to do with Liverpool again. Best of luck to him. I like him as a person. He's done tremendous things for the city, more than he has for the football club, by the way. And I've got no beef with him, and I know plenty of Liverpool fans who feel the same way.
It's really strange. Just to say, it's really strange that, because when I was in Liverpool, even I've got family in Liverpool, and I know I've got friends in Liverpool. Like going to the game together, watching Liverpool fans in the derby day, Liverpool fans, Everton fans watching the game together. You know what I mean? Coming together over Hillsborough. There was all of this. Is it all kicked off because of what happened with Pickford and Van Dijk? Is that when it started?
No, it's been listen. Unfortunately, and this sounds really conceited, and it's not meant to. Everton live in Liverpool's shadow and have for a long time. Liverpool fans like to remind Everton they've not won anything for 26 years. They don't like that. You can't have a conversation about football in a pub with an Evertonian anymore. You can't do it.
You can't.
That's crazy.
They're so bitter.
That's crazy.
And we call them the bitters for a reason. They are so they've got it right. They believe that the football in Liverpool belongs to Everton, and the reason why, because they got it into their head they gave us Anfield, right? And so without them giving us Anfield, Liverpool wouldn't exist. They didn't. They failed to pay their rent. They were evicted. That's the truth of it. So then Liverpool stepped in and they did what they did. History being history. some of my best friends in my life, some of my real best friends who I would do anything for at the drop of a hat are Evertonians, and some of their family, and they are old school Evertonians. But the youth of today, the generations that have come into football since you spent your time in Liverpool, that is the most toxic and most vile football relationship I've ever experienced, ever. Even when we were winning and Manchester United weren't, and you hated us. When you were winning and we hated you. It never got to the levels where it's got to at Everton. It's like, do you know what's happened in Liverpool now? You have postcode wars. If you live in Croxteth, you don't go to Norris Green because you get shot. And that's become a siege mentality. That's true, that. It's become a siege mentality between the football clubs. That is Liverpool, that is Everton. They coexist in the same city, but they are worlds apart. And that's the way that unfortunately, Merseyside's gone.
That is incredible.
Crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Wow. I'm absolutely blown away by that. I'm absolutely.
I
never realised it was that
story. Another time, I'll spend some time telling you some stories because I grew up in Liverpool, mate, and I spent a lot of time. And the things that are going on in that city are absolutely insane, mate.
Honestly, I knew that Pickford and Van Dijk, what Pickford did to Van Dijk, I knew that was like a massive thing that was discussed in the city, and the Everton fans saying, Liverpool, just stop it. If this happened, you know what I mean, and all of that. And Liverpool fans saying, you Pickford literally did it on purpose and all of that. I knew that became a flashpoint, but now I didn't realize that now it's postcode. Wow, it's gone to postcode. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous.
Yeah, it is. That's
really
yeah, it is.
I think
it really is.
So
Nuruddin posted on Twitter like Benitez to Everton. What do you guys think? And I said this, like, I feel sick. Like, it's just because I know his qualities as a manager, and I don't want Everton successful. And we don't mention the P word around Liverpool fans, Nuruddin, because that's a very sad moment in the season. The P word, the person that I just like, he just has the most punchable face in football history. Like, that man, I just honestly, trust me, it's literally like it's.
He's been England's best player. That must be winding you up. He's been England's best player. He's been calm and composed England's best player.
Sterling has been England's best player, and that winds me up as well. So I'm just like, the top two players are both players I hate.
Oh yeah, you can't win.
Yeah, it's just a hard. I think Benitez is bigger than Everton Football Club, but I have to say what Steve said there. Like, look, even though I'm a foreign Liverpool fan and stuff, but I'm very well educated on Hillsborough. I'm very educated on what Benitez did. Obviously, him donating £96,000 and everything he's done. So he's done a lot of stuff for the city, as Steve said, even for the cause and for the tragedy. So I can never say anything bad about Benitez. That's 100%. Like, I will never say anything bad about him. And obviously, considering that 2005 final, where I was 10 years old, and that's my first like experience of success at a young age there. But I think, look, I can never say anything bad about him, but at the same time, I still feel a little bit disgusted, like, inside, that Benitez is now like Everton manager. Like, it just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right. And just to add on what Steve said, when he said you can't discuss football with an Evertonian, I genuinely can speak football with any football fan except an Everton fan, because Everton fans, like, if like foreign fans, for example, if you're talking to an Everton fan, they have one response, like it's like a DVD, and they just like play track 1. Have you ever been to Anfield? Play track 2. You're not even from Liverpool, you will. Play track 3, blah, blah. Like, it's just the same shit they keep repeating over and over and over. And you cannot discuss football with them whatsoever. I have rattled so many Everton fans on Twitter, and I just inject it in my veins every single time, because Everton fans, like, you can't even talk to these people. You can't even talk to these people. And even with Benitez, they're just going to be mid-table. And I'm going to play track 3 of the DVD. This is the DVD you hear every summer, okay? It's literally, and if you say you haven't heard these exact words for the last 10 years, then you've been living under a rock, okay? This is exactly what you've been hearing every single summer. Everton have won the transfer window. Everton have really good players. Goodison, on a good night, they could actually scare opponents. Everton could trouble the top 6 teams. Everton could break into the top 6 this season. Does it actually happen? Never. So it's just going to be the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh yeah, we have good players. We have Benitez now. We won the transfer window because we signed 3 Arsenal rejects.
You forgot one.
And at the end
You
of the
forgot
day,
one. You
it's
forgot one.
mid-table.
You
Mid-table.
forgot one. Rob, you forgot one. The power
Which one?
shift starts now. The power shift starts now.
Oh, that is funny.
Bro, I am 26 years old. I'm 26 years old. I've been watching football since 2003, and I have seen Leicester City. I've seen Tottenham Hotspur win trophies, and I've not seen Everton win trophies. Now, if like power shift, like the power's gone, mate. Power's gone. Like electricity's
I
gone.
was there last time they won a cup. I was there. I actually, I had a little tear in my eye actually because I was so gutted. We were going to win the double and we lost the double. I'll never forget Paul Rideout's jammy header, jammy absolute header.
That was the last time, Nuruddin. So what? You were like 5 years old.
I wasn't. I was a teenager. I was young. I was a wee teenager, as my friends would say.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah,
MashaAllah.
But yeah, I'm kind of. Some of them don't want him. That's why I asked the question. It was a genuine question.
Yeah, that's the weird thing too. I think there are more Everton supporters that I've seen that don't want him than Liverpool fans, and which baffles me. Which baffles me that it really runs that deep. I think Rafa Benitez, just as a manager, is great, and I think that he has a lot of really good qualities, and he's going to bring a lot of good things to that team. But it seems strange to me. I've seen Everton fans be more frustrated than Liverpool fans about his appointment, and I've seen more Newcastle supporters be more frustrated that Rafa went to Everton as well. It's just it's strange. It's strange to me.
They can't move on. They can't move on from whatever it is they're stuck in. Whatever year that like they went in the car with Back to the Future and got stuck in. They simply can't bring themselves into today's world.
Yeah.
It can't be easy when you think you've got a divine right to say that Merseyside's blue. When really isn't. And another thing they say to us is all of our fans are Norwegians and they come over on a plane on the day of the game.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the other funny thing too is, I mean, I guess I would be a little frustrated too if the most recent manager that we had left and went to Real Madrid.
That was nuts. You know, no respect.
No respect whatsoever. Carlo was there until something better opened up, and he swiftly left. That tells you a lot about what's going on at Everton Football Club. So,
but by the way that Hassam and Steve are describing them, it reminds me like, you know, early 2000s City fans or 90s City fans. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. From being described. I actually have a couple of friends because I went to university there who are both Everton and Liverpool fans. You know what I mean? And people who are intermarried because that's what it is, isn't it? It's families. You know what I mean? Mum's an Everton fan, the dad's a Liverpool fan. There's big families on either side. You know what I mean? You know, family, Christmas, getting
it's different now, isn't it? It's different now. You look at City. City fell away and ended up in Division 2. So when they ended up in Division 2, all the fans fell away with them, and they kind of had a rebirth with the oil money and all of that stuff, which is why all of their fans now can't see past 2000. They don't think football started before then. So you have a different relationship with Manchester City now than they ever would have had. Everton fans have never gone away. The taste and the detestation of Liverpool has grown year by year by year, and it gets worse every year. So every one of those 26 years that they haven't won a trophy for, when the new season starts, they get an equivalent amount of extra hatred towards Liverpool. It's absolutely staggering how it's turned out in Liverpool. Absolutely staggering.
The only thing
Liverpool is the cup final game, like every single time. It's unbelievable that and they actually play with such anger, the players as well, because they put in tackles like it's 1960 black and white football still. Like It's just unbelievable. And that game is remembered for the Pickford. Sorry, I said the P word. For that guy's tackle on Van Dijk. There's an even worse guy, an even more punchable person called Richarlison, who absolutely ended Thiago for 3 months. So that also happened in the same game. So that's Everton Football Club. They're forever Everton are honestly Tottenham of Liverpool. Like they're just Tottenham of the city of Liverpool are Everton. They just look back at history with nothing to show for it, no trophies, nothing. Tottenham forever in Arsenal's shadow, Everton forever in Liverpool's shadow. It's just fact.
I know too many old school Everton fans. That's the difference. That's why it was very difficult for me to remember this. To come to terms with this hatred and toxicity now that's taking place between Everton and Liverpool fans. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's crazy. Not gonna lie. Grandad Indy has joined us.
Listen, do you know how good it feels to come back to the channel and I'm not the oldest guy on the panel? Do you know how good that feels?
Outrageous. Outrageous.
He's already started, guys.
Listen, you're not going to piss me off today. We signed Sancho. Varane's coming. I'm all happy. Don't do it.
Can you imagine? Oh, can you imagine?
I wish. But I still think even with Varane and Sancho, Man United are nowhere close to the league. Without
I agree.
I
agree. I agree. My whole thing is just buying first
Quality.
11 signings. I don't want to see any squad players coming in at all. First 11. That's what.
Well, with Ollie, you never know. With Ollie, you never know. Sancho might be a bit young. He needs to get used to English football.
I prefer not to speak.
No, do you know the worst tweet I seen today? One of the big United profiles put out. Manchester United saved 35 million by waiting a year for Sancho, and I'm thinking, do you know what I quote tweeted? Yeah, we bought Donny van der Beek and didn't play him. He was 35 mil. How have we saved 35 mil? Makes no sense at all.
Was that Neil Ashton basically wrote it and gave it to them?
Yeah, it probably was Neil Ashton. Yeah.
No, it's true.
You know what's crazy when it comes to Nuruddin talking about structure? Like, honestly, it's transfers like this that actually make you think, or like, what Nuruddin says is fact. Because if the Sancho deal, like he said 2.5 years late or 2 years late, I think even at least if they signed him last window, that would have actually helped you have a title challenge. And now I'm not saying that like slightly. I'm saying that because remember, City fell off madly. Chelsea as well with Lampard, and we had like 7 million injuries. So like it was an actual opportunity. If the Sancho deal went through, I wouldn't have been surprised if United won the league based on the context of this season, like what has actually happened this season. So it's a little bit too late now. Congratulations, you've gotten him when Chelsea are going to sign players, City are going to sign players, Liverpool, I hope, inshallah, sign players. So it's like, it's too late. It's too late.
I mean, John McGinn's coming, so just be patient.
Here we go.
You know on the whole title thing. He's a decent player. He's a decent player. But our central midfielders are way below Liverpool. Let's just say that. But what I was going to say on the title thing, you've said everyone else has fallen off, like you said before. But why isn't Manchester United allowed to fall off in that scenario when we get Sancho as well? Like, you're assuming that we're going to win every game and capitalize each time. Like, United would have had
No, but you've been falling off since 2013, but that's not the point.
No, but in terms of the context of the season,
based on the context of this season, if you signed Sancho last summer, not this one, if you signed him last summer, based on actually because obviously we're talking obviously in hindsight, but I'm bringing forth the argument that if you signed Sancho last summer, based on what actually happened in the season, I think you would have actually challenged for the title and possibly won it, because you were literally one world-class player away from.
I think if you wanted to analyze Manchester United's title challenge and what they need to put it right, and this isn't me saying this just because I'm a Liverpool fan, go and watch the video when Manchester United played Liverpool at home, because that polarizes every single issue Manchester United have, and they are the reasons why they can't win a title, because we overran them, and we overran them in the key areas. And the one big area that stands out is called a big number 6. That is the key to everything for Man United.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's
No,
not
I
even
agree.
it's also the centre half as well because Lindelof. Oh my God, it's still got that.
Yeah, but you put a six.
No,
You
but
put a
Lindelof
six in
isn't
there.
that
You
bad.
put a good six in there. You give a bit
Yeah,
of protection to that
Lindelof,
centre-back
Facts.
Lindelof's not that bad. I think it's one of the things like
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Brian. I'm sorry.
He is bad. He is bad.
No.
No,
I
he's
disagree. I don't think he's that bad. I think
he's not.
he's a player that he shouldn't be partnering Maguire. He should
No.
be competing with Maguire for that position. If you look at the way he plays with Sweden, he has the same role that Maguire has for Manchester United. But Lindelof's role for Manchester United is to cover for Maguire. He's not a covering centre back. He's more of a ball playing centre back. He's usually the one that goes for it originally, and then someone covers for him. His role at Manchester United is very, very different. So he should be competing with Maguire, and then we should have a centre back next to them who complements them and their weaknesses. That's what should be happening. But they shouldn't be a partnership.
Can I just ask you guys a question, right? Quick question on Varane. So Maguire's always going to be the guy that goes and wins the ball because he's a unit and he wins more than his fair share in the air. There are question marks over whether Varane is intelligent enough to deal with what happens when Maguire doesn't win the ball. And we've seen that in the Euros with goals that France have conceded. Does that not worry you that you might spend 60, 70 million pounds on a centre half that may not solve your problems?
He does that role for Real Madrid because when Ramos is the one that wins the ball in the air, he's the one that covers for Ramos. When Ramos steps into midfield with the ball, Varane does cover for him. I know La Liga is different. I know like Real Madrid are different, but he does have that role for Real Madrid.
I think your first point's the most valid though. Is that without that DM, without that six, I think any centre back partnership are going to look shaky.
Yeah,
you need that cover.
The spine of the team is important, and I think United have just really neglected it. If you have better cover, if you have better cover, you're able to just protect those players a little bit more. I think for Varane, bringing him in, he accentuates attributes that I think Maguire is not he's not as strong in. So Varane he's a powerful center back. Like he's strong in the tackle. I don't think Maguire's that strong in the tackle. I don't. I think Varane's got pace. Maguire is not that quick. So I think like partnering them together, they can cover each other's blemishes, and that's what you want in a partnership. So like I wouldn't be particularly worried about that. But when you have two center backs that are similar in style, it makes sense why they get exposed in those situations. And Maguire and Varane in that as that type of partnership with the way that United play are going to end up coming against one-on-one scenarios against attackers. They have to be able to protect one another. And Lindelof and Maguire do not protect one another well in those scenarios. And so for that's why we need somebody else in there. And I think if you get a player the profile of Varane, it will significantly upgrade that back line for Manchester United.
And I think there are very few centre backs. There are going to be issues, but I think there's also very few centre backs that we can bring in that will instantly sort of improve our defense as well. There's very few centre backs that are even worth the money. Like the money that's being touted for Pau Torres, I think it's too much for him. Like we could pay less for Varane, who's an experienced centre back who has the qualities that we need. And then people want us to go for Pau Torres, who will be 65 million euros, I think it is.
Yeah,
he's not worth it. He's not worth that.
Not worth it.
Definitely. I think the thing is like people are looking at Maguire Lindelof as a partnership, which is fair enough. You can look at it from that perspective. I'm looking at Lindelof as an individual defender, and like it's basic things for me. Like he's good with the ball. He has space. But obviously, like I know people don't cross into the box anymore in the league. It's not that type of league. But the amount of like aerial battles he loses, and we've seen it in the Euros as well. And I'm actually gonna say this, and I actually feel disgusting saying this, but I think Maguire, genuinely speaking, with Van Dijk out, is the best defender in the league, and not Ruben Diaz. And I actually like because when I've seen him perform, like people actually do tend to pile it on him as well. Like maybe not by the media, but by the fans, because the media don't pile it on him at all because he's the English prince. But when it comes to like individually, actually this Euros as well, when you look at it, Maguire has been immense. absolutely immense this entire Euros. And when you look at it, like, what would it take for him to transform that form into Man United? That's the question. Because Maguire individually, now forget the Maguire Lindelof partnership. I'm talking individually. Maguire is like 5-6 levels above Lindelof. Like that actually reduces Maguire playing next to Lindelof, reduces Maguire's level as well, because he needs to actually do so much as a part of that partnership. And I think if you get just one proper guy next to Maguire, it's a different argument. It's a different argument.
I mean, I would even roll that back further. I would roll that back further. It's like, forget the Euros. I think since like November, so I think Maguire's been really, really, really steady for Manchester United, and people have just been disrespecting him all season long. I like you hate to like rip off the Band-Aid, but a Maguire that performed like he did against Germany in the Euros, if he plays like that, if he plays period and plays like that in the Europa League final, it's a done deal in 90 minutes, easy. Where we win that game. Like people underrate the ability that he brings to that team. Like the ability for United to attack lies more in what Maguire does with the ball than Fred and McTominay. They can't pass. So like when he's not in the team, we lack a link going forward. And like he adds so much, not just defensively, but just in his ability to keep a team ticking. That's so valuable in the modern game. Like defending isn't just about like crushing attackers anymore as a center half. It's about so much more than that. At the end of the day, you have to be able to defend well, but what you're expected to do as a defender in the modern game has evolved beyond that now. And I think Maguire does that really well, but people just disrespect him so much.
Brian, I don't think anybody, I haven't seen a centre-back consistently dribble out from the back and set up attacks better than Maguire has.
He's amazing at that. Season. He's incredible.
He's incredible. Draws players in, plays the ball through. And I think a lot of it is because he has to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is he has to do that. But I don't think any centre-back does that better than him. In the league, well, last season anyway.
Can I just come in? I just want to make a couple of points. Maguire is very prone to the ball. I always, Rachel, when she's come on United Real Therapy, I always explain where centre halves earn their money. He sometimes gets caught on his toes. Sorry, on his heels. He's not quick enough to react when the ball gets crossed, and because of the size of him, he can't turn. He turns like a double-decker bus. He's cost us a lot this season. He cost us against Sevilla in the semi-final. He cost us against IP Leipzig away for what he was doing. But both of them, I agree to a lot of extent what Rachel said and what a lot of panelists have said about how him and Lindelof don't suit each other at all. They do not go together whatsoever. They're the worst partnership I've witnessed in the last 30 years at Man United. Worst centre-half partnership at Manchester United.
Wow.
In terms of the way they complement each other. They do not complement each other whatsoever. But I would say that towards the end of the season, midway through the season, and towards the end of the season, Maguire has become very consistent. And loads of times I called it out, and I said, because I always call it as I see it, and I gave him some of the man of the match performances, and I've gone out there because I actually was against the signing of him. I said go and get Koulibaly instead, and obviously Man United were run by bankers, so the way he was never worth the 80 million. I'm going to disagree with Don Husman and say that to me Diaz was the best centre half this season by absolute mile in the Premier League. It wasn't just about his age, but his leadership qualities and how much he brought to the Man City backline and how much he improved everybody. He's the type of centre half that literally improved everyone and literally brought Stones out of doing his internship at the local Tesco. You know what I mean? So that's what before Stones wasn't a footballer.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm interested.
Internships. He was doing internships at different, different.
Maguire's situation, right? We all watch our football teams differently to how we watch opposition's football teams because of the levels of investment, and we all like to think, we can see where it's going wrong. If you're not a Manchester United fan, the first thing you say about Harry Maguire, and I've spoken to Rachel about this before, is He goes and tries to win the ball in places he shouldn't go and try and win
Thank
the
you.
ball.
Yeah, he's
That's
drawn
going
to
to
the
be my
ball.
next point, Steve. That
He's
was
drawn
going
to
to
the
be
ball.
my next
Yeah,
point.
his starting positions are problematic, and he doesn't always see danger. And that's me being really critical because I've never hidden the fact I don't particularly like or rate Harry Maguire. I think he carries the ball out of the defence. That is amazing what he does. I've watched patterns of play thing done by Rachel and look at that. Yes, he does link up play. He does build down your left-hand side. But you've seen goals where basically the ball's thrown in the box. He ended up fouling his own man. And that is where he's so willing to try and win the ball. He forgets about the discipline of being in his zone and in his score where he should be.
Positioning. I have never known a centre half because the biggest thing about centre half, the great centre halves, Vidic, Van Dijk, Rio Ferdinand, all of the best centre halves that played, Campbell, Tony Adams,
Ledley King.
Ledley King, all of them will smell danger. Literally, when the ball is out wide, they will smell danger. And I always say it's the corridor. The corridor where most centre halves earn their money is between the goalkeeper. It's between about 7 to 8 yards from the goal line. It's in that position. And amount of games that's forever etched into my head where he doesn't smell danger is incredible for me.
Mm-hmm.
For the amount of money we bought him, for the height that he is, you know what I mean? That was
I agree.
He's never an 80 million defender.
Carrying the ball is a different thing, and that's something that's specialized to him because he has to, like you said, Indiana, he has to because you know what I mean, because the way our midfield is. But going back to Varane, I think Varane has gone stale at Real Madrid. I think the partnership has come to an end between him and the guy who's obviously the leader and the captain of Real Madrid, Ramos. I think he needs a new challenge. I think all of the different things. And when you win all these trophies, it's very difficult at the club to motivate yourself. Really, really difficult. And that's why Fergie always had to freshen up the team to let people go, regardless how much the fans like us kicked off. I remember kicking off and going crazy when he let Schmeichel, when he let Kanchelskis go, when he let Ince go, when he let Hughes go. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? But you know what I mean? I didn't know that the amount of talent that was coming through at that time. So Varane needs a new, for himself, he needs a new, fresh challenge. He needs to get out of the Real Madrid bubble and get a fresh challenge. I think I do agree with Steve. He has been suspect in the goals that they've conceded. But without Varane in this championship, France would have conceded a lot more and would have been out. France would have been out in the group stages without Varane's defending. I'm telling you now, because if you check if you try to find highlights of the Germany-France game, how many times he was there blocking shots, heading it away in the back post.
Yeah.
Literally putting his life on the line. And I think one thing he did was take lightly the Hungarians as a team. The French underestimated them. And he's like any other player, he underestimated them. And I thought that the mistake that he made for the Hungarian goal was glaring light for everybody to see. I think the mistake that Kimpembe made for the last goal for the Swiss equalizer was there, but he couldn't cover around for him because he got attracted to the guy other than holding the position. So, but I think he's a fantastic player, absolutely fantastic player. And I think him with a new challenge in a new place outside of Real Madrid bubble, I think he can rediscover his form when he was the best centre-back in the world.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things too is, like, especially in the modern game, defending is so much more about setups and systems now more than it is about individual players. But over the years, like what I have learned over the years about center backs is that when it comes to if it's just the back line, that's the only thing that separates. The only thing that is determined between whether you're going to concede or not. You've got to have a good, steady partnership at the center half position. For me, if the partner to Maguire is not complementary, not the right partnership, I'm also not necessarily expecting Maguire to be able to be at his best because he's not being covered well by his partner. So for me, when I look at Maguire, when Maguire has to be the one to always attack the ball because Lindelof never wants to do it. When he always has to be the one to be strong in the tackle, when he always has to be the one who has to be in the right spots because there's no guarantee he will be covered, you're asking him to do too much as one man in a back four. And so for me, I think he needs a partner who's going to be able to take some of those responsibilities off of him because Lindelof's not that guy. He's really sheepish as a center half. So,
Brian, my issue with that, right? Here's my issue: is you pay £80 million for a defender. Steve's completely right, 100% right when it comes to Harry Maguire defending. By the way, he's the captain of Manchester United. The captain of Manchester United. You show those leadership qualities on the pitch. That's where it happens. You can't have someone cover that. Does
that mean that you can't make mistakes though, Indiana? Is that what that
it doesn't
mean?
mean you can't make mistakes, but when that is your game, you can't have that covered. It's not even just the defending. It's how often does the guy win the ball in the opposition's box and you can't put them away. Like,
can I just say something?
I think that's a small thing that doesn't necessarily matter.
Brian? Can I say something, Brian? He can't defend the ball on the floor and he's 6 yards. He can never cover the front post. If he's in the air, he's a bit more dominant. I get that. He's a bit more dominant in the air. The most where Maguire looks so super impressive, if you play the straight down ball up, move the ball up to the striker, Maguire is most likely going to win that header because it's straight. But the ball gets across anything where he has to change direction. He has to quickly swivel and change the direction. And the ball is coming, like I said, in that 6 yard area. Maguire is toothless. I can give you the countless games. I can give it to you. I can tell you, Man City at home, Liverpool. I can tell you, no, he didn't play against Liverpool in the league this year. At Man City, IP Leipzig. Where was his leadership against that team in Istanbul? That I'm older than. Most of us here are older than that team. That knocked us out. That won their first ever game in the Champions League, right? There were countless games this season where the ball gets crossed in and he can't deal with it, especially on the floor. Sevilla is the classic example for me, where people were blaming Williams and Luke Shaw. No, your centre half, that is bread and butter. That's where you earn the money as a centre half. It's that corridor, the front post, the back post. That's where you earn it. And he can't turn. It's not his fault. I remember when Tottenham beat us, and Tottenham, we drew with Tottenham, and Bergwijn got him in the halfway line. Most United fans were blaming him. I was like, we're not going to blame him. I don't expect, because that's what Maguire's strength. If he gets turned in the halfway line, he's always going to lose. I've had 4 knee surgeries, and I can run faster than Maguire. You think I might be deluded, but I think I can, because he needs at least 10 strides to get going. He's not a quick guy. He needs 10 strides to get going. Over 10 strides, he might be able to get somewhere. But in that first 5 or 6 strides, he's not. The players are gone. I don't. When Stanislas twisted him up against Bournemouth at Old Trafford, and did the trick and twisted him up, I said, that's happened to Rio Ferdinand. I've seen it happen to Van Dijk. I've seen it happen to the best, Maldini, Baresi. I've seen it happen to the best centre-halves, the legendary centre-halves. One-on-one where the player does a skill and beats them. I don't ever blame centre-halves for that, because any centre-half, any given time on a one-on-one can be beaten. That is a fact. Because if all centre-halves were never going to be beaten, we might as well pack up and not watch football, because that's not how football works. A great skill is a great skill regardless who's doing it. And any centre-half can be sucked in by great skill. For me, it's your 6 yards. It's that first corridor, it's the first post and the back post. And when the ball's on the floor, he can't do it. He can't. He's too big. He can't get in a stride. And I say what Carvalho did with Everton when they got the 3-3. Maguire is there. Maguire is keeping everybody online. And he goes for things other than holding his position. And that is my biggest thing I've ever had with him. And he was doing the same when he was at Hull. He was doing the same thing at Leicester. And I was telling people, and nobody wanted to listen. So I'm Brian, to answer your question, it's not about that for me. It's not about his partnership for me. It's about individually.
I didn't really ask a question, but I didn't ask you a question to be fair. But I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, individually, all players have blemishes. Nobody's perfect. Sweet, cool, great.
No, I think the point is when you're Manchester
I understand the point. I'm just being hyperbolic on purpose.
Yeah, no,
Bruce never had that, bro. Steve Bruce never had that. Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister never had that. Vidic, Rio Ferdinand never had that. They all could defend their 6 yards. So the best one was Stam. Stam would eat those balls up. The biggest thing any team in that 99 or the couple of years where Stam was there, right, was that I'm not gonna lie to you. Me and my friend used to play this game. Teams used to get Stam out of the middle, get him out of the middle. As soon as the ball went in, they used to concede. The best thing about getting Stam out was teams recognize if we drag Stam out of the middle, we put the ball in the box, there'll be players to score there. Stam for me was the perfect six in that corridor that could attack the ball. He used to throw people out the way in the 90s, and football was allowed. You were allowed to do that, and he could do that with his eyes closed. And Harry Maguire doesn't have that. If you had really good coaches, they would just teach you to hold these positions, to hold your positions. Well, we don't have that. Instead, we got Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna.
Oh dear. Sorry, guys. Yeah, this has been a 2.5 hour stream, and we spent half an hour of it speaking about Harry Maguire. Guys, I appreciate the patience, especially in the comment. The comments have been a bit wild, so I haven't put all of them up because I might get shut down. But thank you guys for coming on. I want you guys to introduce your channels. Didn't get to do it last time because it was another long stream. But Steve, let everyone know where they can find you and tell us a bit about your channel as well, please.
Yeah, you can get me on my personal tag there, or you can get me at Football Focused. It's a Premier League channel. It's under a bit of a review at the moment, so hopefully we keep going, but we'll see how things go. But drop along there, give me a follow individually, give me a follow on my channel. Happy to talk with any football fan about anything you like. It's what I do. So again, thanks for having me on. It's been cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Hussam, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I just don't know why we spent the last half an hour talking about like an irrelevant football club. Anyway, you guys can.
We didn't speak about Arsenal, did we?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's talked about Arsenal, to be fair.
You really did. You really had to do me like that, Rachel. Anyway, you can find me on YouTube at This Is Football. We're still doing Euro content right now, but when the Premier League starts, obviously we're going to be doing Premier League content, watch-alongs, anything you need. It's a general football channel, and recently we've hit 500 subscribers, which is absolutely incredible. So thank you all people. Thank you so much. And that's my channel right there, and this is my Twitter. You can find me on Twitter rattling every single fan on football earth just by tweeting. So follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my channel, and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Hussam. Nuruddin, well, everyone knows Nuruddin, but let everyone know where they can find you and tell them about your amazing channel.
I don't know about that. I don't know amazing, but yeah, United Real Therapy is absolute jokes. We started actually to mirror the offside rule the past couple of days, having a little bit of a laugh with Hancock, making Hancock relatable to football. So now instead of calling it "It's all gone Pete Tong," we call it "It's all gone Hancock." So it's a lot of funny. Therapy Army are a funny bunch. So yeah, check me out on United Real Therapy. It's a community, and it's a lot of laughs. It's a lot of interesting debates and about football. And yeah, Mr. Structure on Twitter as well.
Thank you for Nuruddin. Definitely check out his channel.
Yeah, can I get your channel again? Is it Football Focus? Is it one word?
Yeah.
It's football.
Yeah, it's one L in Football Focus.
Okay.
Brian, let everyone know where they can find you, please.
Yeah, I mostly just float around, mostly here now in the First XI, also on Twitter at BKStinson08, living life as the only positive Manchester United fan in existence. So, if you know any other ones, shoot them my way. I get it. We've been hurt. but that won't keep me down. I smile every day.
Yeah, that's true. Brian is always a bit of light in the darkness, to be honest with you. He's always very, very positive guy. Boss man, anything you'd like to say before we end the stream?
Not really, no. Just we signed Sancho. I'm not that excited about it because they killed it for me last year. I'll be excited when he's tearing it up at Anfield. I'll be loving it. But yeah, listen, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone for coming on. Go and check out everyone's channels though. Go and follow their socials. Make sure you go and subscribe to their channels. You need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will be back tomorrow with the offside rule. Apologies for what happened last week. All the girls have been very, very busy. It's been a very, very difficult couple of weeks, to be honest with you. But we will be back tomorrow. So
show on football show on YouTube.
Oh, thanks, Nuruddin. Really appreciate that.
It's absolutely hilarious. It is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it's a pretty great show, to be fair. I enjoy it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.
Cheers, guys.